A grin was blooming in Claire's heart, but her face remained a mask of cool indifference. This, of course, made Leo a little uneasy. He was worried his desk partner wasn't taking this seriously, so he made sure to add, "So, you should probably stay away from that Julian guy from now on." At that, Claire's elegant eyebrows arched slightly. Her beautiful eyes swept over Leo, a thoughtful glint in them. "You want me to stay away from him?" Leo nodded vigorously. "Yes, yes, definitely." A strange sparkle danced in Claire's eyes, a flicker of genuine interest. "Is it that important to you that I stay away from him?" "What kind of question is that?" "It's important for you." Leo thought her question was bizarre, but to strengthen his point, he nodded again with conviction. "Very important." Claire let out a soft, "Oh," and nodded slightly. Then, in a light, casual tone, she said, "If that's the case, then for you, I'll never speak to him again." With that, she clasped her hands behind her back and strolled forward, her steps suddenly seeming several degrees lighter. She left Leo standing there, completely bewildered. "What the hell? What does she mean for you? This has nothing to do with me." Trailing behind, Leo couldn't see the expression on his desk partner's face. He didn't know that the curve of the famous campus beauty smile was practically reaching for the sky. TSK, TSK. My little desk partner is getting brave, isn't he? Words like that. They're almost a confession. As they walked into the main academic building and started up the stairs, a thought occurred to Claire. A hint of concern crossed her face, and she turned to look at Leo beside her. "About that bet you made with Julian, don't you think that was a little reckless?" Whatever Julian's character flaws, the guy was a bona fide academic powerhouse in the humanities track. In every major exam, aside from Claire herself, no one else in their year could confidently say they could beat him. That was precisely why he was so arrogant, why he hadn't even demanded that Leo score higher than him. Just making it into the top 10 of their grade was enough. As for Leo, that flawless, almost British accented English of his wouldn't do him any good on the written midterms. And while Claire had witnessed his incredible test-taking prowess the other night, it seemed he still had gaps in some of the foundational knowledge that required rote memorization. For him to shoot for the top 10 in the upcoming midterms, it just seemed impossibly difficult. Leo, however, just smiled calmly. In front of his desk partner, he had to maintain his cool. "Can't lose face." "Don't worry," he said. "It's a piece of cake." He said it was a piece of cake, but Leo was taking it seriously. As someone reborn, this was his first major opportunity to show off and put someone in their place back in high school. He couldn't afford to mess it up. Besides, the results of these midterms weren't just about a petty squabble with Julian. They concerned his desk partner's safety, and they would even influence his parents' future career decisions. So yes, he needed to give it his all and prepare properly. After starting college in his previous life, Leo had developed a no-nonsense, get-it-done attitude. Once he set a goal, he didn't waver. For the next few days, he buried himself in a mountain of textbooks and a sea of practice tests, battling his way through old exam papers in preparation for the midterms next week. He was laser-focused in class, listening intently to every lecture. During breaks, he remained at his desk, head down, plowing through problems and review materials. Even at lunch and dinner, he'd often just have his best friend, Kevin, grab him some takeout from a spot near campus. He didn't waste a single second, continuing his frenzied cramming and note reviewing. This completely transformed work ethic didn't go unnoticed by his teachers, especially his homeroom teacher, Mr. Harrison. They were all surprised, but also deeply gratified. That Leo Wallace. He's really turned over a new leaf. He's become so diligent. Even after getting home from school, Leo would burn the midnight oil at his desk, studying until at least 1 or 2 in the morning. His parents, Robert and Susan, observed their son's newfound dedication from the sidelines. They were both proud and worried. Lying in their bedroom one night before turning off the lights, they whispered to each other, "Leo's really been different lately, hasn't he? Studying so hard. I'm worried he'll burn himself out." Robert Wallace looked at his wife. "You know, he might be doing all this because of his promise to you, to help you realize your dream of starting your own business." A wide smile spread across Susan Wallace's face. "Of course he is. That's my son." Clenching her fist, her expression filled with determination. "If my son is fighting this hard for his mom, then I can't let him down. I don't care anymore. Even if Leo doesn't make the top 10 in his class this time, I'm still going to talk to my manager. I'm quitting, leaving this dead-end job, and starting my own company." It wasn't just the teachers and his parents. Many of Leo's classmates in Class 10 were also buzzing about his recent change in attitude. "Hey, have you noticed how hard Leo has been studying lately?" Yeah, a bunch of teachers have praised him in class. One day in the school cafeteria, a few of the girls eating with Claire couldn't help but bring it up. Tessa Yuan, the class literature rep and one of the prettiest girls in their grade, glanced at Claire with a knowing smile. Well, I heard. The reason Leo's been working so hard is because he made a bet with Julian from class 13. And, she added, leaning in conspiratorially, the bet has something to do with Claire. As soon as she said it, the other two girls at the table nodded eagerly. Yeah, I heard that too. Apparently, Julian was trying to ask Claire out, but Leo stopped him. They got into an argument and decided to settle it with their midterm scores. Wow, that's so romantic. Claire, who do you want to win, Julian or Leo? The question hung in the air. All three of them, including Tessa, fixed their gazes on Claire, their eyes wide with curiosity and anticipation. Facing her friend's eager looks, Claire calmly lifted her bowl, took a small sip of egg-drop soup, and set it back down. Her expression was placid as she replied, "A bet? I think it's childish. Who wins and who loses," she said coolly, "has nothing to do with me." She said it with a cool detachment, as if it truly didn't concern her. But those words were just for her friends. A bet over exam scores. Was it childish? In Claire's opinion, Julian wasn't just childish. He was pathetic and absurd. But when it came to Leo, all she could see was her thoughtful and utterly adorable desk partner. Did it matter who won or lost? Not really, because regardless of whether Julian won or lost, she would never give a scumbag like him the time of day. And as for Leo, winning or losing wouldn't change her opinion of her little desk partner one bit. It was Friday evening during the late study hall. The campus air was hot and muggy. The classroom was silent except for the scratch of pens on paper and the rhythmic creak of the ceiling fans. After several days of nonstop studying, battling mountains of books and seas of practice problems, Leo couldn't fight off the exhaustion anymore. He slumped over his desk, dozing off for a moment. Sitting beside him, Claire happened to turn her head and saw him fast asleep on his side. He seemed to be in a deep, peaceful sleep. His dark, slightly messy hair fell lazily across his forehead, his bangs partially covering his eyes. One side of his face was pressed against his arm, while the other was turned perfectly towards her. To Claire, he looked surprisingly innocent like this. A pang of tenderness went through her. She couldn't help but feel that all this frantic effort was because of her. Instinctively, she held her breath and carefully, slowly, leaned closer. It was the first time she had ever studied a boy's sleeping face so closely, so brazenly. His eyelashes are so long. His nose is so well-defined. His lips are thin, but they look soft. His hair is a mess, like a little bird's nest. He really should style it, but his skin looks amazing. So clear, and his cheeks look so soft. They make you want to just pinch them. Lost in her examination, Claire felt her heart flutter. Uncontrollably, her hand began to move, as if guided by some mischievous impulse, reaching towards his face. Her long, slender fingers touched the boy's cheek. Cautiously, curiously, she poked it once. Then, like a thief caught in the act, she snatched her hand back. The soft, springy sensation still tingled at her fingertips. It wasn't enough. She couldn't resist. Her hand crept out again, and she poked his cheek once more. And then, she was hooked. A poke on the cheek, a tap on his dimple, a touch on his nose. She even dared to poke his slightly pursed lips. For a moment, Claire was completely absorbed in her little game, forgetting all about her Ice Queen reputation, forgetting she was in a classroom full of students. So she didn't notice that across the room, a few other students, tired from their work, had sat up to stretch their stiff joints. And as they glanced around, their eyes fell upon the scene in the back row of the fourth group. Gasp! The students who saw it stared, dumbfounded, wondering if their eyes were playing tricks on them. Their class president, the Ice Queen of Northwood High. What was she doing? Claire also failed to notice that, at that very moment, their homeroom teacher, the notoriously strict Mr. Harrison, nicknamed Iron Face Harrison, was walking in through the back door of the classroom on his usual patrol. Having poked nearly every part of Leo's face, Claire was no longer satisfied. Her boldness grew. She reached out again, this time with two long, elegant fingers, and gently, but firmly, pinched his cheek. Before she could even register the feeling, a cough came from behind her. Ahem! Claire froze, her hand still on Leo's face. She instinctively turned and saw Mr. Harrison standing right beside her desk, a strange, complicated expression on his face as he looked at his star pupil. What are you doing? Leo had been dozing, lost in a fuzzy dream. Vaguely, he felt something cool touch his face. Then again and again. At first, he thought it was just his imagination. But then, something pinched his cheek. The light pressure was just enough to jolt him awake. He blearily opened his eyes and found his cheek being held between two fingers of a delicate, slender hand, frozen in place. Leo? A question mark popped over his head. He looked forward and saw the familiar figure of his desk partner, and beyond her, a pair of middle-aged slacks and a black leather belt. His gaze traveled slowly upward. Mr. Harrison's stern face came into view. Leo. All sleepiness vanished in an instant. He was wide awake. Leo shot upright in his seat. The commotion in the back row had drawn the attention of the entire class. Every head turned just in time to see Iron Face Harrison standing in the aisle, and their Ice Queen class president with two fingers pinching Leo Wallace's cheek. Entire class. Under the watchful eyes of the entire class, and with Mr. Harrison standing right in front of her, Claire calmly withdrew her hand from Leo's face. She looked at her teacher and explained in a cool, natural tone, there was a mosquito on Leo's face. I was helping him get it. The entire class, especially the boys, felt a wave of despair and fury wash over them. A mosquito? My ass! They screamed internally. Even if there was a mosquito, who swats one like that? Mr. Harrison listened, his expression unreadable. He looked at his favorite student, then slowly nodded. I see, he said in a level voice. You did the right thing. Classmates should always help each other out. The class was stunned. Their minds felt like they were being trampled by 1,000 stampeding llamas. What the hell, Iron Face? You actually believe that crap, and you're praising her for it? The next moment, Mr. Harrison's gaze shifted to Leo, his expression instantly turning severe. Leo Wallace, do your own work. Next time there's a mosquito, you swat it yourself. Leo. At that moment, a million question marks were floating above his head. All traces of sleepiness had been scared right out of him. Leo watched Mr. Harrison complete his patrol of the classroom and exit through the front door. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief. He turned to look at his desk partner, but she had already turned away as if nothing had happened, though she didn't forget to toss a cool, "You're welcome," over her shoulder. Leo? He was at a complete loss. He didn't remember feeling any mosquitoes. But the little incident had certainly woken him up. There was still half an hour of study hall left. No longer sleepy, Leo got up from his seat, planning to head to the restroom. On each floor of the humanities building, the restrooms were at the far end of the hallway to the right of the stairwell. The back door of Class 10's room was right next to the stairs, so it was a convenient right turn for any student needing a break. But Leo had a different habit. He exited the back door and turned left, walking all the way down the long corridor until he reached the covered walkway connecting the humanities building to the admin building. Few students ever used the restrooms in the admin building, so they were always quieter and cleaner. After coming out of the men's room, Leo didn't hurry back. He stood by the railing on that floor, looking around. The admin building was 6.5 stories tall, built around a central atrium. Administrative offices lined the corridors on all four sides, but the center was open, allowing you to look all the way down to the ground floor or up to the curved glass dome of the observatory at the very top. That half story with the glass dome was Northwood High's observatory. An idea sparked in Leo's mind. He started walking, heading up the admin building staircase. At the top of the 6th floor, a locked iron gate blocked the way to the final half story. The observatory wasn't usually open to the public. A teacher would only unlock it for special events to let students visit. But the gate didn't stop Leo. He glanced around and quickly spotted a dusty, abandoned planter in the corner of the landing. He reached under it and pulled out a key. With a familiar motion, he inserted the key into the lock. With a soft click, the iron gate swung open. Leo smiled. His memory served him right. The school's maintenance chief, Old Man Joe, kept a spare key here for convenience, a little secret that had become Leo's treasure. In his past life, stumbling upon this key had been like discovering gold. The observatory, a restricted area to everyone else, became his exclusive, private sanctuary. He pushed the gate open and stepped onto the cool marble floor of the observatory. He found a spot on the tiered observation steps and sat down. Looking up through the massive, curved glass dome, he could see the vast, endless night sky. Tonight, the sky was clear without a cloud or a wisp of wind. Starlight, traveling from hundreds of thousands of light years away, sprinkled down. The faint glow was mesmerizing, making you lose all track of time, completely immersed in the moment. Leo gazed up at the sky, lost in thought. In his past life, he came here often. He had been an introvert with few friends, and whenever he felt down, he would come to the observatory alone and stare at the night sky. Looking at the countless stars seemed to calm his soul. Reborn into this life, he was looking up at what was probably the same sky, but with a completely different feeling in his heart. A faint, warm sense of nostalgia washed over him, and he smiled. He didn't notice that not far away, in the shadows by the iron gate he had just come through, a slender figure stood silently, taking in the entire scene. You sit in the observatory and watch the stars. Someone stands in the starlight behind you and quietly watches you. Back in the classroom, when Leo didn't return from the restroom after a while, Claire had a feeling he would be here. In her past life, she had read his diary, which mentioned the secret of the observatory on top of the admin building many times. Leaning against the gate, hidden in the shadows of the corner, Claire quietly watched the boy sitting on the observation steps. She watched him stare foolishly up at the sky, lost in a daze. And the renowned Ice Queen of Northwood High, for the first time, felt the look in her eyes soften. September 13th. Holy crap. Old man Joe keeps the observatory key under a planter. This place is mine now, haha. September 16th. Watching the stars alone in the observatory tonight. TSK, TSK. This is the life. Unbeatable. September 19th. Back at the observatory, watching the stars alone again. One word, awesome. I should ask Sarah Lynn to come with me next time. September 24th. Still alone at the observatory today. Sarah said she was busy, but she promised next time for sure. So I'll ask again. September 25th. Sarah had something else come up. It's fine. Watching the stars alone is pretty good too. October 11th. Watching the stars alone isn't that great after all. Not coming back. October 15th. Alone today. Watching the stars. But tonight, there were no stars. The entries from his diary flashed through her mind like a slideshow. The image of a lonely, pitiful boy she had once only imagined from his words now merged with a foolish-looking boy sitting under the cold starlight right in front of her. The sight made her heart melt with a soft, aching tenderness. You dummy, Claire thought to herself. Without realizing it, the words slipped out loud. Her voice wasn't loud, but in the vast, silent observatory, it was more than enough to be heard. On the observation steps, Leo jumped, startled. Who's there? Then a familiar, cool, clear voice replied. It's me. He followed the sound and saw, by the iron gate in the corner, a tall, beautiful figure slowly stepping out of the shadows. Under the starlight, her face was ethereally, breathtakingly beautiful. Recognizing his desk partner, Leo was stunned. What were you doing here? Leo was genuinely startled. As far as he knew, he was the only one who knew about the key to the observatory gate. To every other student, this place was off limits. He never would have imagined anyone else could get in. No one else had ever shown up here in his past life. Who would have thought that tonight, on a whim to revisit an old haunt, his desk partner would be here too? Mr. Harrison came back to the classroom. He saw you were gone and asked me to find you. Caught in the act of secretly following him, Claire didn't even bat an eye, spinning a lie with perfect composure. He came back again. Leo's heart skipped a beat, and his scalp tingled. Damn, I never thought Ironface would pull a double back. This is bad. Seeing the panic on Leo's face, Claire waved a dismissive hand. It's fine. I took care of it for you. Leo breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, good. Thanks. Claire nodded, her expression unruffled. You're welcome. It's what desk partners do. It never occurred to Leo that she might be lying. After all, why would she go out of her way to find him? With that problem solved, Claire looked at Leo, raised an eyebrow, and turned the question back on him. But what are you doing here? Leo scratched his head, glancing around. I used to come here a lot. Kind of have a soft spot for it. We're about to graduate, so I probably won't get another chance. Just wanted to come see it one last time, for old time's sake. Claire's eyebrow arched again, her expression unreadable. You used to come here a lot? Leo gave a casual smile. Since she'd already found him, there was no point in hiding it. Yeah, old man Joe, the maintenance guy, left the key, and I found it. This place has been my secret base ever since. Whenever I bombed a test, got chewed out by a teacher, or after Sarah Lynn rejected me. He caught himself, realizing he'd said too much. He cleared his throat awkwardly and quickly glossed over it. Ahem. Anyway, whenever I was in a bad mood, I'd come up here, sit, look at the stars, and just zone out. It actually felt pretty good. Liar, Claire said silently in her heart. She knew better. In his diary, she had read his entries about this place. Every word was steeped in loneliness and solitude. He was like a lost puppy left out in the rain, trying to put on a brave face. December 31st. There are 382 stars in the sky tonight. I actually counted them all. I'm such a genius. She remembered that entry. It was full of a boy's boastful pride. But what kind of loneliness would drive someone to leave the lively New Year's Eve party at school, come up to the observatory alone on New Year's Eve, and count the stars in the sky? Behind a cheerful facade, All Claire had seen through the words in that diary was a boy trying desperately to pretend he was happy. And now, standing right in front of the diary's author, watching him speak so casually as if none of it mattered, it only made her heart ache for him even more. Suddenly, Claire wanted to hug this big kid in front of her, and so she did. Before Leo could even react, a soft, floral scent washed over him. Without any warning, his desk partner took a step forward, wrapped her arms under his, and pulled him into a tight embrace. Starlight from hundreds of thousands of light years away poured through the observatory's glass dome, bathing the two teenagers in its ethereal glow. It coated them in a soft, sacred light, a scene that was at once quiet and magnificent, romantic and vast. In a moment so romantic, it would have made romance novel readers squeal and roll around in their beds. Our hero, a clueless, twice-a-virgin dolt with the romantic sensitivity of a steel bar, was completely flustered. "Hey, wait a sec. Huh, what are you doing?" At this very moment, the thought that flashed through his handsome head was one that sent a chill down his spine. If Mr. Harrison comes looking for us and sees this, am I totally screwed? He held a soft warmth in his arms. The girl had buried her face in his shoulder, her dark hair emitting a faint, lovely fragrance. Leo stood there, stiff as a board, not daring to move a muscle. He was terrified that the slightest wrong move would get him strung up on the flagpole by a furious Mr. Harrison tomorrow morning. Feeling his life was in grave danger, he carefully chose his words. Why are you hugging me?" It was a question so monumentally stupid it could make any romance reader want to flip a table. Yet, the girl in his arms answered with her usual cool tone. "No reason. Thanks to you, I got to see the stars. Just thanking you." Leo blinked, looking up at the sky beyond the glass dome. "Just for seeing the stars? Does that really warrant such a grand gesture of gratitude? If I showed her something else, would she have to marry me?" "This girl is pretty easy to fool," he concluded internally. The hug lasted only a moment before they separated. Claire took a step back, gracefully pulling away. "Let's go. It's time to head back." She turned and walked towards the iron gate, but after a few steps, she paused and glanced back at him. "Next time you want to see the stars, don't come alone. Call me." Leo was stunned. "Why?" he asked instinctively. By the time the word left his lips, his desk partner was already walking away, leaving him with a final, casual remark. "No reason. Desk partners watching the stars together. It's perfectly reasonable, isn't it?" "Is it?" Leo was full of questions, but he just scratched his head and followed her. He didn't press the issue, and she, of course, wouldn't tell him the real reason. Why? Because when she read his diary, that part had broken her heart. Because she had seen the image of a lonely boy staring into space on the observatory deck, and she had decided that if she ever got a second chance, she would never let her little dummy of a desk partner be alone like that again. And since she really did get a second chance, she had to make up for past regrets. Why watch the night sky alone when you can watch it as a pair? Not long after they returned to the classroom from the observatory, the bell rang, signaling the end of the late study hall. The quiet room instantly erupted into a clamor of activity. Slower students were just beginning to pack their bags, while the quicker ones had already finished, vaulted over their desks, and dashed out the door. In the back row, Leo and Claire were both quietly packing their things. There was no further conversation between them, their interaction as distant and proper as any normal pair of desk partners. It was as if the starlit embrace in the observatory had never happened. "Leo, my man, ready to head out?" Kevin, having packed his bag, bounced over from the next row. The next second, he saw Claire, who was also packing and had just looked up. The Ice Queen's gaze swept over him indifferently. Kevin's enthusiastic grin froze on his face. So, are we heading out or not?" Leo glanced at his best friend, confused by his suddenly strange tone. "Yeah, we are. We go the same way, don't we?" Kevin swallowed hard, ignoring Leo completely. He looked cautiously at their class president. "President Sterling, what do you think?" His tone was so deferential it bordered on sycophantic. A sharp survival instinct told him exactly who was in charge here. Claire glanced at Kevin and said calmly, "You two go." As if granted a royal pardon, Kevin nodded frantically like a chicken pecking at grain. Right, we'll go. Leo watched this exchange. He couldn't figure out what was wrong with Kevin. "You're asking me to go home with you, so why are you asking for her opinion? She doesn't even live in our direction." After packing their bags, Leo left the classroom with Kevin. On the way to the underground bike garage, Kevin looked around furtively, then leaned in close. "So, during that last study period, where'd you and our dear class president, Sterling, disappear to?" Leo's face was a picture of innocence. "Nowhere. I was late coming back from the restroom, and the teacher asked her to come find me. Kevin was completely baffled. Teacher? I thought Mr. Harrison left? When did he ask her to find you? He looked Leo up and down, his eyes gleaming with gossip. Fess up. Were you two on a secret date? Leo laughed. You're overthinking things. We're just normal classmates. There's none of that weird stuff going on. Kevin rolled his eyes so hard they almost got stuck. Normal classmates? Would a normal classmate go out to eat with just you? Would a normal classmate bring you breakfast? Would she go to the convenience store with you and hold your hand in public? Who's going to believe that? The words tumbled out of him in a torrent, clearly something he'd been bottling up for a while. He looked at Leo, a mix of frustration and disbelief on his face. Think about it. She's Claire Sterling, the Northwood High campus beauty, the Ice Queen. This gorgeous, unattainable goddess suddenly starts being so friendly and close to you, and you don't think that's the least bit strange. Leo thought for a moment, then nodded matter-of-factly. We're desk partners. Helping each other out is perfectly reasonable. Kevin nearly coughed up a lung. Reasonable my ass. They got their bikes from the garage and joined the massive stream of students heading home. As they rode out of the school gates, Kevin was still muttering. No way. I'm telling you, something's going on with you too. My sense of cosmic justice is completely out of whack. We're passing by that drink shop later. You're buying me a lemon iced tea to restore the balance. At the same time, in a shadowy corner near the school gate, a Maybach, its black paint melting into the night, sat parked. The rear door opened. Claire got in and closed it behind her. Her gaze swept forward, and through the windshield, she could clearly see Leo's figure just leaving the school grounds. There was something else next to him. She couldn't see it clearly. It wasn't important. The driver was a steady-looking man in his 40s, dressed in a well-tailored black suit and white gloves that seemed utterly out of place in their small, simple town. He glanced at Claire in the rearview mirror, his voice calm and respectful. Miss Sterling. Home as usual. Claire's father was the CEO of a renowned corporation in the state, and the Sterling family was incredibly wealthy. Her father was often too busy with work to look after her personally, so he had hired a driver who also served as her bodyguard to escort her to and from school. The driver's name was Joe. He was a retired Special Forces soldier, stoic and resolute, and had been with the family for years. He had seen it all and prided himself on remaining unflappable even in a crisis. If not for that, how could he have been entrusted with the solemn duty of protecting the Sterling family's only daughter? Claire didn't answer right away. Her eyes, looking through the windshield, were fixed on the back of a certain someone who was slowly getting farther away. She seemed lost in thought. Mr. Joe, Miss Sterling. Claire snapped back to reality, her expression casually indifferent. No rush. See that bicycle up ahead? She raised a hand, her slender finger pointing through the glass. Mr. Joe followed her gesture and saw what looked like an ordinary boy on a bicycle. I see him. A faint smile touched the corners of Claire's lips. Follow him, she ordered lightly. In the driver's seat, Mr. Joe's hands, which were usually as steady as stone on the steering wheel, trembled for a fraction of a second. But his face remained a mask of calm composure. Yes, miss. The Maybach pulled away from the curb smoothly, without a single jolt, a testament to the skill of a 20-year veteran driver. But if you could have seen his face at that moment, you would have noticed his pupils were practically vibrating with shock. Mr. Joe, good heavens, what is happening? Miss Sterling is asking me to tail a boy. After 9:30 p.m., Northwood Avenue was always packed with the student army from Northwood High heading home from their late study halls. Bicycles and cars mingled together in a massive, flowing stream. In such dense traffic, the black Maybach slowly following a target from behind didn't attract much attention. Leo and Kevin continued to ride at a leisurely pace, chatting idly. Kevin was still buzzing with excitement. Hey, I heard a new dessert shop open up on Old Mill Park Road. Some of our classmates are planning to check it out this weekend. You in, man? Leo turned to look at him, puzzled. Since when are you interested in dessert? Kevin's face was a mask of innocence. Well, Tessie Yuan, our literature rep, is going... Ah, I see. So the interest wasn't in the dessert. The man's intentions lay elsewhere. Leo remembered this. In his past life, his best friend had a long-standing crush on Tessie Yuan. With an opportunity like this, there was no way he'd miss it. I think Tess is into me, too, Kevin declared, his face glowing. This morning, when she was collecting the English homework, she stopped at my desk for at least 5 extra seconds. It's obvious she treats me differently. He turned to Leo, his eyes full of hope. What do you think? Do I have a shot? Leo considered this, then replied tactfully, I'm worried Batman might come after you. Kevin, the light turned green, and the traffic started moving again. Leo pedaled forward. You guys go ahead, he added casually. I need to study at home. Kevin quickly caught up. Still studying? Seriously, man, have you completely changed? Going all out like this? Then it dawned on him. Oh, right, that bet you made with Julian from class 13 a couple of days ago. Top 10 in the year? Leo, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but you really rushed into that. Kevin's tone was filled with anguish. Even if you wanted to be the hero and look cool in front of Claire, you gotta know your limits, man. With your grades, just getting into the top 10 of our class would be a miracle. A bet for the top 10 in the year? That's basically a suicide mission. Leo just smiled. It's fine, he said lightly. I'll do my best and let fate handle the rest. Kevin sighed. Yeah, I guess it's too late to say anything now. You go ahead and study. At least it'll be some psychological comfort. The topic dropped, and they continued writing. When they stopped at an intersection for a red light, Kevin suddenly looked alarmed. He leaned in close, whispering, Leo, do you get the feeling that we're being followed? Followed? Leo looked at him like he was crazy. Kevin nodded vigorously, pointing behind them. Look right there. That black car. It's been behind us this whole time. Leo glanced back in the direction Kevin was pointing. The traffic was a congested mess. He couldn't see anything clearly. He scoffed. You've been watching too many spy movies. In the real world, who has time to follow you? Kevin thought about it, then nodded hesitantly. You're right. Maybe I was mistaken. The light turned green, and they started riding again. In the stream of cars behind them, a certain black Maybach silently wove through the traffic, once again falling in behind them. As he rode, Kevin still felt uneasy. He couldn't resist looking back again, and his eyes widened. Dude, it's that car. I swear. Leo, look. It's really following us, he shouted, grabbing Leo's arm. Leo sighed and turned his head again. Just then, a few other cars and bikes cut in, blocking his view. The black Maybach once again slipped silently into the shadows of the cars behind it. Leo, which one? That one. Kevin tried desperately to point it out, but when he looked again, it was gone. It was right there. It's blocked now. Leo gave his friend a look. Young people really should spend more time studying and less time watching trashy movies. He's starting to hallucinate. He ignored him and kept pedaling. Kevin was left staring frantically at the traffic behind them. The cars stuck behind him started honking impatiently, forcing him to give up and pedal hard to catch up to Leo, muttering to himself. Was it really a hallucination? A little while later, the black Maybach once again slipped silently through the traffic and fell in behind them. Kevin glanced back casually, and his eyes nearly popped out of his head. It's back. He started shaking Leo's arm again. Leo sighed in resignation and turned his head. Right under Kevin's nose, the Maybach subtly drifted back, tucking itself behind a few other vehicles, perfectly avoiding Leo's line of sight once again. Leo, there's nothing there. Kevin was on the verge of tears. There is. It's hiding back there. They reached an intersection and parked their bikes on the sidewalk to buy drinks from a small shop. Leo was paying. As Kevin took a sip of his lemon iced tea through a straw, he kept glancing back at the road, unwilling to give up. Leo looked at his friend, then turned back to pay the cashier, his voice laced with exasperation. I told you, you're just seeing things. Kevin's face was a mask of indignant fury. Absolutely not. I swear, there was a car following us. Just then, not far behind them, the black Maybach slowly approached. Kevin's whole body tensed with excitement. Without looking away from the road, he reached out and started smacking Leo's shoulder. There, that's it. Leo, look. Before the words were even out of his mouth, he recognized the distinctive emblem on the car's hood. A jolt of electricity shot through his brain, and a few very unpleasant connections started to form. Before he could finish connecting the dots, the black Maybach had pulled up alongside them. The rear window slid down, revealing a cool, stunningly beautiful face. Sitting in the car, the Ice Queen wore a blank expression as her gaze swept coolly over Kevin. Kevin's voice died in his throat. Nothing more needed to be said. The window slid silently back up. Just then, Leo finished paying and turned back, looking at his best friend with a sigh. What are you looking at now? Kevin's Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. He forced a smile. And nothing to see. Hallucinations. It was all hallucinations. Ha ha ha. Leo couldn't understand it. In the time it took to buy a drink, Kevin's attitude had done a complete 180. 1 minute, he was insisting they were being followed. The next, he was vehemently denying it, claiming it was all a hallucination, so desperately trying to prove it that he seemed afraid Leo wouldn't believe him. Leo didn't bother trying to figure it out. He just chalked it up to his friend being weird and left it at that. However, just as he got on his bike, ready to continue their ride, Kevin threw him another curveball. Hey, you go on ahead, Leo. I just remembered I have something to do, so I won't go with you. Leo stared at him, bewildered. Don't we still have a ways to go together? The smile on Kevin's face looked a little stiff. "Ha, Dewey. You must be mistaken. Anyway, I gotta go. My mom's having another baby, bye." With that, he hopped on his bike and sped off, as if his life depended on it, vanishing into the distance as if staying a second longer would be fatal. Watching his friends retreating back, Leo was covered in question marks. He had a strange feeling he'd seen this exact scene before. Well, without a companion, he'd just go home alone. Shaking his head, Leo got on his bike and started pedaling leisurely toward home, completely unaware that not far behind him, a black Maybach had started up again, silently following. He rode all the way to his apartment building. As he was carrying his bike up the 2 steps to the entrance, he suddenly stopped and glanced back over his shoulder. Behind him was a small surface parking lot, with a few cars parked quietly. Nothing seemed out of place. Leo shook his head and chuckled. He was catching whatever Kevin had. Getting paranoid. Being followed? Things like that don't happen in the real world. He turned and pushed his bike towards the elevator. At that exact moment, in a corner of the parking lot, the black Maybach, which had decisively killed its engine and lights a second earlier, silently started up again. Inside the car, the driver, Mr. Joe, let out a soft sigh of relief, a flicker of pride in his heart. This is what it means to be retired Special Forces. When it comes to tailing someone, I'm a professional. Wait a second. Tailing? The word flashed through his mind, and Mr. Joe's eyelid twitched. He glanced in the rearview mirror at the young lady in the back seat. She was staring out the window, her gaze fixed on the spot where Leo had disappeared into the building. Only when his figure was completely out of sight did Claire slowly pull her gaze back. "That's good," she said coolly. "Let's go home, Mr. Joe." Mr. Joe responded with his usual calm demeanor, started the engine, and the black Maybach slipped out of the parking lot like a ghost. On the way home, Mr. Joe kept stealing glances at the Sterling family's heiress in the rearview mirror. She was just looking out the window at the passing city lights, seemingly lost in thought. Duty compelled him, but he also couldn't contain his curiosity. Mr. Joe chose his words carefully. "Miss Sterling, that young man back there was." Claire continued to stare out the window, not turning her head. "A classmate," she replied coolly. Then, as if a thought occurred to her, the school's ice queen, the girl known throughout the Sterling household for her aloofness, let a small smile touch her lips. She added casually, "He's also the future son-in-law of the Sterling family." The car fell silent for a beat. After a moment, Mr. Joe gave a calm, "Understood," and continued driving, his composure unshaken. However, from an angle the back seat couldn't see, the middle-aged Special Forces veteran's pupils were once again vibrating with violent shock. When Leo got home, his parents fussed over him, making him eat a late-night snack to replenish his energy. Then he went back to his room, sat down at his desk, and continued his battle with practice tests and review materials. Even though it was the weekend, a time when most students would succumb to the temptation of relaxing, for someone like Leo, who had endured the grueling, monastic study habits of college in his past life, such temptations were nothing. He easily resisted, burying his head in his books. At 12:30 a.m., after finishing 2 full practice exams and memorizing a pile of social studies facts, he went to bed on schedule. The next day was Saturday. For the first time since his rebirth, Leo slept in. He woke up at 10 in the morning, feeling refreshed and energized. He washed up, ate the hearty breakfast his mom had left for him, and then returned to his room to continue his battle with a mountain of books and sea of problems. He finished his weekend homework in the morning, had a simple lunch, and spent the afternoon reviewing key concepts. The day passed quickly. At dinner that evening, his parents urged him not to push himself so hard. Studying was important, but so was his health. His mother, in particular, swore that she was ready to talk to her manager at the factory. Regardless of Leo's midterm results, just seeing his dedication was enough to inspire her to take a chance on her own dream. "So don't work yourself to the bone, Leo," she said. "You need to take care of yourself. Find a balance. It's the weekend, after all. Take tomorrow off, relax, call a couple of friends, and go have some fun." What they were really trying to do was ease his mind, to let him know he didn't have to stress so much about getting into the top 10. Leo just smiled and agreed, not explaining anything. It would be nice to surprise them with his results later. But his parents did have a point. A balance between work and rest was important. He had studied all day, finishing his homework and review. Tomorrow was Sunday. He could afford to relax a little. That night, Leo went to the study, turned on the computer, and prepared to surf the web for a bit. He booted it up, opened the ancient version of Internet Explorer, and dove into the internet of 2007. It was pretty boring, mostly just forums with people asking for pics of hot girls. The online etiquette of the era was surprisingly polite. Every post was followed by a string of "You're a legend, dude," and "Thanks, man." But for a reborn person like Leo, who had seen the TikTok videos and Instagram models of the next decade, these pixelated, old-school images held zero appeal. Scoffing, Leo casually saved a few of the files to his study materials folder on the D drive. After surfing for a bit, he opened his AIM client. He logged on and scanned his buddy list. He saw a special, solitary group at the top, 3 My One True Love 3. Inside was Sarah Lynn's screen name, set to notify him every time she signed on. Leo cringed. So much secondhand embarrassment. Without a second thought, he deleted the buddy and the group, erasing the mortifying evidence. The world felt clean again. As Leo let out a sigh of relief, a screen name in his high school group started blinking. Bling! He looked closer. The buddy icon was a little blue dolphin. The screen name, desk partner. In his past life, during the first semester of freshman year, a classmate had created an AIM group chat for their class. Claire had been added to it. It had taken Leo days of mental preparation and courage building before he finally sent her a friend request through the chat. A day later, she accepted. Leo had been so ecstatic he'd treated Kevin to dinner to celebrate. Though when Kevin asked what the occasion was, he had mumbled and dodged the question, too embarrassed to tell the truth. He had, however, joyfully recorded the event in his diary. October 13th, sent a friend request to my desk partner today, and she accepted. My desk partner is my AM buddy now, haha. Thinking back on that diary entry now made him blush. It was so juvenile. Thankfully, not even his parents had seen that diary, so he was safe from total social annihilation. The truth was, with his introverted personality in his past life, he barely dared to speak to Claire even when they sat next to each other in class. So, despite being AM buddies, he had almost never sent her a single message. The only time was on New Year's Eve during their freshman year winter break. He had summoned all his courage, painstakingly drafting and redrafting a message, before finally sending, "Happy New Year, everyone," disguised as a mass message but sent only to her. He didn't even dare to include an emoji, afraid it would be some kind of offense. In the end, she had replied with a cool, "You too." That reply had kept him awake all night, giddy, rereading it over and over. He had fallen asleep with a contented smile on his face. Later, their home computer broke down. The repairman had simply formatted the hard drive and reinstalled the operating system, wiping out all of Leo's AM chat logs. Seeing the blank chat history with his desk partner, Leo had felt like his world was ending. After that, he never worked up the courage to message her again. Years later, time had turned back. The reborn Leo never expected that on this ordinary night, logging into AIM, he would receive a message from his desk partner. He moved the cursor and clicked. A chat window popped up. Her message was concise, just like her familiar, cool demeanor. Desk partner. What are you doing? What are you doing? According to the countless relationship advice blogs Leo had scrolled through in his past life, when a girl sends a guy these 4 words, it means she has at least some level of interest in him. Leo scoffed at the idea. Sarah Lynn used to send him that message too. But her next message was always, "I want XXX," or "I'm craving XXX sex," or "Can you go buy this for me?" She had treated him like an errand boy. His desk partner wasn't like that, of course. But there was no way she was messaging him because she had a crush on him. Eliminating that impossible answer, Leo activated his brilliant mind and quickly deduced her true intention. The midterms were just around the corner. She was probably worried he was slacking off on the weekend and wanted to check if he was studying. What a dedicated class president, Leo thought with admiration. He quickly typed out a confident, reassuring reply. "Leo W., don't worry. Leo W., I studied all day. Leo W., the midterms next week are going to be no problem." Meanwhile, in a high-end villa in another part of town, Claire sat at her desk, staring at the message that had just popped up on her computer screen. A small question mark slowly formed above her head. That's not what I was asking. She had, in fact, chatted with Leo online in her past life. It was a detail Claire had long forgotten. Back then, she was the aloof campus queen, and he was the quiet, almost invisible boy sitting next to her. It wasn't until she went to his house and read his diary that she learned about this little piece of their shared history. "Leo W., Happy New Year, everyone. Desk partner. You too." That chat log was still there on the screen in front of her. Looking at those 2 simple lines and thinking about the boy who, according to his diary, had agonized over those 4 words, carefully pretending it was a mass message by adding everyone, Claire couldn't help but smile. You dummy. But in this new life, her little desk partner was probably just as shy as he was back then. In that case, it was up to her, the mature 30-something woman on the inside, to take the initiative. Her inner strategist rubbed her hands together, filled with determination. She quickly typed out a new message. Desk partner, you studied all day? Leo W. Yep. Desk partner, aren't you tired? Leo W. Nah, the food at home is great. I'm full of energy for more practice tests. Desk partner, what did you have for lunch? Leo W. Braised pork shoulder, spare ribs with taro, stir-fried bamboo shoots, and tomato, egg drop soup. Desk partner, and for dinner? Leo W. Leftovers from lunch, plus some stir-fried pork liver. Desk partner, what about breakfast tomorrow? Leo W. Tomorrow's breakfast. He stopped typing. A wave of confusion washed over him. Wait a minute, is she taking a survey or something? Does she really need to know my entire menu? He deleted what he had written and just sent a question mark. Leo W. On the other end, Claire burst into laughter, a sight that would have stunned her family or former employees into disbelief. The cool, unapproachable Miss Sterling/CEO, laughing like this while chatting with a boy. She thought for a moment, then typed again. Desk partner, what are you doing tomorrow? Leo was starting to think his desk partner was a little too curious, but he answered honestly. Leo W. Probably study some more in the morning. Leo W. In the afternoon, I might go for a walk in Beacon Hill Park. Relax a bit, get some fresh air. A moment after he sent the message, a reply came back. It was a single word. Desk partner. Oh. Just like that, she was back to her cool, indifferent self. And after sending the message, her buddy icon went gray. She had signed off. Leo had been about to politely ask what she was doing tomorrow, but she was gone before he could even type it. He was once again baffled. Chatting with his desk partner was exhausting. He had no idea what went on in her head. Shaking his head, he didn't dwell on it. He shut down the computer and went to bed. The next day, at 2 in the afternoon, the bright early summer sun shone down on the entrance to Beacon Hill Park. Standing in front of the ticket booth, Leo stared in disbelief at the unexpected arrival of his desk partner. What are you doing here? His desk partner, unfazed, casually adjusted the brim of her baseball cap. Her expression was perfectly calm. I came to get some fresh air to... What a coincidence. A coincidence. Leo eyed his desk partner suspiciously. Today, the Ice Queen had traded her usual simple school uniform for a sporty look. She wore a white graphic tee and denim shorts that revealed a pair of long, slender legs that were bright enough to be a public hazard. On her head was a pink baseball cap, and her hair was tied back in a simple ponytail that bounced with every movement. She looked pure, energetic, and dazzlingly beautiful. If his desk partner's usual cool demeanor was enough to make countless boys at school swoon, today's vibrant outfit increased her lethal charm exponentially. Anyone with weak resistance would probably have a nosebleed a mile long at the first sight of those breathtaking legs. Of course, Leo wasn't some naive, inexperienced kid. With the soul of a 30-something man, he merely took a quick glance at her, and then another glance, and then another billion or so glances at the lower half of her body, specifically those long legs. What was I about to say? Oh, right, a coincidence? That excuse is so lame. I mean, transparent. Seeing him standing there, staring at her like an idiot, a barely perceptible smile touched Claire's lips. Internally, her inner strategist was preening with satisfaction. Just a simple little boy. All I have to do is dress up a little, and I can have you wrapped around my little finger. It took Leo a moment to snap out of it. He scratched his hair awkwardly, trying to act casual. What were you just saying? Claire found his reaction hilarious, but her face remained impassive. I said, I also came to Beacon Hill Park for some fresh air. Running into you is just a coincidence. Could such a coincidence really exist? Leo didn't buy it for a second. It was obvious that after he'd mentioned it last night, she had decided to come here today. What? You think I came here on purpose to wait for you? She countered coolly, as if reading his mind. Her inner strategist, channeling Sun Tzu, thought, this move is called advancing by retreating. A classic. Hearing that, Leo paused. It did sound plausible. His desk partner was the Ice Queen of Northwood High, with a line of suitors that would stretch from the cafeteria to the school gates. Why would she go to all this trouble for an average guy like him? What would be the point? It's not like she had a crush on him. Unless she was also reborn. Excluding that impossible scenario, her coincidence story actually made sense. Their town wasn't that big, and there were only so many places to hang out. It wasn't that strange for them to have the same idea. Yeah, it's reasonable. Leo looked up at her. So, want to walk around together? Claire raised an eyebrow, her expression non-committal. I suppose. Beacon Hill Park was, as the name suggested, a park built on a hill, a small local landmark. Located on Park Road in the old part of town, it had a large plaza at its base that filled with food stalls at night. A newly built movie theater nearby made the area a bustling hub of activity every evening. During the day, The park was a popular spot for senior citizens to take a stroll, a natural oasis for fresh air and relaxation. On holidays, families would come for outings. As summer approached, its lush greenery made it the perfect place to escape the heat. Usually the park was free, but recently a small traveling zoo exhibit had set up on the hill, so there was now a temporary admission fee. Leo and Claire paid a total of $10 for 2 tickets and were let in by the woman at the booth. Leo paid. It stung a little, but on the outside, he had to maintain a gentlemanly demeanor and pretend it was no big deal. To get up the hill, you had to climb a short flight of stone steps. It had rained the previous night, making the steps a bit slick. Leo walked in front. He turned to see Claire carefully holding the railing as she followed behind him and offered his hand. "Need some help?" The moment he extended his hand, he realized it might have been too forward. With his desk partner's cool personality, she would never normally accept such physical contact from a boy. He was hesitating, about to pull his hand back, when she beat him to it. Her slender, pale hand naturally took his. "Thanks," she said in her usual cool tone. Her hand was cool and soft. Leo's heart, against its will, skipped a few beats. "Get a grip," he told himself. "Calm down. You're just normal classmates. This is just a pure, helpful gesture." Pushing aside the distracting thoughts, Leo held his desk partner's hand, and they continued up the steps. Soon, they reached the top of that flight, and the path ahead leveled out. Mission accomplished. Leo let out a mental sigh of relief and prepared to let go. Let go. Huh. He tried to let go, but it wasn't working. He looked down, puzzled, and saw that while his hand had relaxed, his desk partner's slender hand was still holding his, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Leo looked up at her. Claire's expression was calm and composed. "There's another flight of stairs later," she said. "We'll just have to hold hands again, anyway. Might as well not let go. It saves trouble." "Is that a thing?" Leo felt like since being reborn, he had been learning all sorts of mind-bending new tactics from his desk partner. But then he thought about it and couldn't find a flaw in her logic. If she wasn't bothered by it, why should he be? As a guy, he wasn't losing out on anything. So be it. He resolutely grasped her hand again, and they continued walking forward. Being led by the hand, Claire walked half a step behind him, her eyes on the side of his face. A smile spread across her face, her eyes curving into happy crescents. 101 ways to hold my desk partner's hand. Trick number 2. Hee another win for me. They walked a little further, and sure enough, another flight of stone steps appeared ahead. Leo continued to hold his desk partner's hand, carefully leading her up. He noticed these steps were more worn and even slicker than the last set. He turned back and offered a piece of advice. "Be careful." His desk partner, following behind him, replied with a calm, cool tone. "Then you should hold on tighter." Leo, he thought about it. That actually made sense. So he instinctively tightened his grip on the small hand in his, then turned back to focus on climbing. He was completely oblivious to the fact that, behind him, his desk partner's smile was so wide it was practically touching the sky. After that flight, they were more or less at the top of the main path. There were no more steps ahead, just a gentle, paved walkway. Leo was about to let go, but he felt his desk partner's hand subtly tighten around his. He looked at her. Her face was a mask of cool indifference, showing no sign of anything unusual. She didn't say a word about letting go. Well, if the girl didn't mention it, what was he supposed to do? Might as well keep holding it. As a guy, he wasn't the one losing out here. With that thought, Leo felt completely at ease. Besides, in his past life, he never would have had such an incredible opportunity to walk through a park with his beautiful desk partner, holding her hand and getting away with it. And so, on the mountaintop path, a boy and a girl walked side by side, hand in hand, under the bright, clear sky. It was a picture of youthful innocence that could make any heart flutter. There were 2 ways to get up Beacon Hill. Leo and Claire had used the main entrance, dutifully paying the $10 entrance fee. There was another way, through the side entrance, which was connected to the town's youth center. You could enter the youth center for free, find a small, unmarked gate, and slip through into the park, saving yourself the money. As a reborn person, Leo had long forgotten this trick. But for some of Northwood's high school students, it was common knowledge. Students like Kevin Zhao. This way, Kevin said, enthusiastically waving his classmates over to a small gate behind the youth center. He boasted proudly, "See, this gate goes right into the park. We saved a ton on tickets. I don't just tell anyone about this, you know." With Kevin today were 4 other students from Northwood High, 3 girls and 1 boy. 2 of the girls were from their class, Tessa Yuan, the literature rep and one of the class beauties, and Samantha Sue, who often hung out with Claire and Tessa. The other 2, a boy and a girl, were from the neighboring Class 11. The girl, Tiffany Gua, had the spoiled air of a little princess but came from a wealthy family and had good grades to back up her arrogance. The boy, Felix Fong, was the academic representative for Class 11, consistently ranked in the top 10 of their grades humanities track. Combined with his decent looks, he had a small fan club among the girls. The group had started their day at the new dessert shop near the park. After that, with nothing better to do, Samantha mentioned the traveling zoo exhibit on the hill and suggested they go check it out. Kevin had then bravely volunteered to show them the money-saving secret entrance. They were all just high school students, and even the girls didn't have unlimited allowances. Saving $5 each was a good thing. Tessa and Samantha both smiled and thanked Kevin, showering him with praise that almost made him float away on a cloud of pride. But when it was Tiffany's turn, the self-proclaimed princess whose family owned a department store just sniffed dismissively. "It's just a few bucks for a ticket. What's the big deal? And we have to take this back path, it's all muddy. This dress is designer. It cost over $200. If it gets snagged on a branch, 10 of your stupid tickets wouldn't be enough to pay for it." The other student, Felix, pushed up his glasses and offered a faint smile. It's quite similar to a plebeian mindset, isn't it? A lack of vision, focusing only on immediate, trivial gains. They feel a sense of triumph over a tiny advantage, but it reveals a deep-seated mediocrity that ensures they'll never see the bigger picture. His words were pretentious and a bit of a stretch, but Kevin was left dumbfounded. Wait, what? I help everyone save a few bucks on tickets, and suddenly I'm a mediocre plebeian? Beside him, Tessa and Samantha both frowned. This Felix guy looked good and had the grades, which initially gave them a decent impression. But the moment he opened his mouth, he was insufferable. That condescending superiority complex was a major turn-off for girls. However, unlike the girls from their class, Tiffany seemed to be completely smitten with Felix. Hearing his grand pronouncements, her eyes were practically sparkling. "Felix, you said that so well. That's exactly what I meant. Wow, a top student really is different. Everything you say is so profound." She was already calling him by his first name, clearly broadcasting her crush. In the end, they all went through the small gate, saving $25 in total. As they made their way up the path toward the zoo exhibit, Tiffany flitted around Felix like a butterfly, chattering nonstop. Felix clearly enjoyed the attention. At the same time, he seemed to have his eye on Tessa, one of the beauties from Class 10. He kept trying to strike up conversations with her, subtly bragging about his academic achievements. Seeing her crush talking to another girl, Tiffany grew jealous and kept interjecting, trying to assert her claim. And that's how the conversation drifted to our two main characters. Felix was 9th in our grade for the humanities track on the last major exam. Tiffany announced, as if his achievement was her own. He was the second highest ranked guy, right after Julian from Class 13. Felix gave a modest smile, pretending to be humble. "It was all right. I'm still a ways off from Julian. I need to keep working hard and learn from him." Tiffany suddenly remembered something. "Oh, right. I heard that Julian made a bet with someone recently about their rankings on the upcoming midterms. It's apparently a pretty big deal. Have you guys heard about it?" At her words, Kevin, Tessa, and Samantha all exchanged strange looks. Heard about it. They were very, very familiar with both parties involved. As Tiffany spoke, Felix's eyes lit up. "Right. I heard about that. It happened a few days ago at the school store, after the morning announcements, right?" Tiffany added, leaning in. Julian Sue went to talk to the campus queen, Claire Sterling, but some nobody with a death wish stepped in and blocked him. They started arguing over her. Finally, on the same topic as her crush, Tiffany's face glowed with excitement. She nodded eagerly. Yes. It was all over Claire Sterling. They ended up making a bet. Julian said that if the guy can score in the top 10 of our grade on the midterms, he doesn't even have to beat Julian's score. Then Julian will give up on pursuing Claire. The whole grade is talking about it. I even heard the freshmen and sophomores are gossiping. Felix pushed his glasses up his nose and smiled faintly. Julian is going easy on him. In the humanities track, he's the top guy, consistently in the top 3. Even I can't compare to him, let alone anyone else. Besides, he added, his tone tinged with a sigh, a girl on Claire's level. Only Julian is worthy of her. Claire Sterling, the untouchable campus queen, was the ultimate crush for every guy at Northwood High, a dream forever out of reach. Even Felix had fantasized about her, though he'd never been foolish enough to actually try and pursue her. Tiffany, as if remembering something, turned to Kevin, Tessa, and Samantha. Hey, isn't Claire Sterling your class, Class 10? She asked. You guys must know more about this. Who's the guy who stood up to Julian? Do you know him? Tessa and Samantha exchanged a glance and couldn't help but smile. Well, you're asking the right people. We do know him, Samantha chimed in. And he's in our class, too. Tiffany and Felix both looked surprised. Kevin, however, couldn't wait any longer. He puffed out his chest with pride. Know him? That's my boy Leo Wallace. He's Claire's desk mate. And my best friend. Best friend. Tiffany and Felix stared at him for a second. Then, Tiffany looked Kevin up and down, a dismissive smirk on her face. He's your best friend? And here I was thinking anyone who dared to challenge Julian Sue would be someone impressive. Hearing you say that, I'm guessing this Leo guy isn't anything special. Her tone was dripping with disdain. Felix just smiled coolly, a superior look on his face. Indeed, he commented, as if delivering a profound judgment. Birds of a feather flock together, one with a small-town mentality, the other completely delusional. It makes sense they'd stick together. Kevin's eyebrows shot up. Who are you calling delusional? He could handle the passive-aggressive jabs at himself, but when it came to his best friend, that was a line they couldn't cross. Felix just chuckled, unfazed. My apologies, let me correct myself. It's not just delusional. For your best friend to challenge Julian Sue for the campus queen. A more accurate description would be a pipe dream. That did it. Kevin was genuinely angry now. Sure, he'd felt a pang of jealousy seeing Leo and Claire's friendly interactions, thinking there was no way it could be real. But that was his place as a friend to think that. No one else got to look down on his boy. What pipe dream? Kevin shot back, his voice rising. I bet you didn't know. Not only is Leo her desk mate, but they're super close. Claire brings him breakfast, helps him with his homework. They've even gone out to eat alone. After school, she even secretly followed us home once. The first few claims made Tiffany and Felix look stunned, but the last one made them burst out laughing. Oh, please, Tiffany mocked, rolling her eyes. You almost had me believing you for a second. There's a limit to bullshitting, you know. Helping with homework and eating together, whatever. But you're saying Claire Sterling, the ice queen herself, secretly followed some guy home from school? Have you been watching too many spy movies? Felix smirked, adjusting his glasses with an air of seeing through the charade. Even if they did eat together and study, it means nothing. They're desk mates, helping each other out. It just shows that Claire is a kind person. She'd probably give money to a beggar on the street. If you're blowing that up into some kind of intimate romantic connection, then all I can say is, his gaze, now laced with pity and scorn, landed on Kevin. Both you and your so-called best friend are completely full of yourselves. Kevin's face was beet red. You. Even Tessa and Samantha felt Felix had gone too far. His words were just plain nasty. But if they were being honest with themselves, they also didn't really believe there was anything serious going on between Claire and Leo. Tessa gently tugged on Kevin's sleeve. Just let it go. Samantha, ever the peacemaker, quickly jumped in with a cheerful laugh. All right, enough of that. We're almost at the wildlife exhibit. Let's go check it out. But while they were trying to defuse the situation, Felix and Tiffany weren't ready to let it go. Seeing Kevin's flushed, angry face, Felix laughed again, his tone mocking. What? Still not convinced? Still want to defend your buddy? If this Leo guy really had something going on with Claire, wouldn't they at least be out on a private date on a weekend? Tiffany cackled. Exactly. If your friend is so close to Claire Sterling like you say, how come we don't see them here at Beacon Hill Park on a date? Ha ha. The group had been walking as they argued. Just as Tiffany's unrestrained laughter echoed through the trees, they emerged from a wooded path into a clearing in front of the wildlife exhibit entrance. And there, coming from the main path, they met Leo and Claire face to face. The air froze. Time seemed to stop. Sunlight dappled through the leaves, illuminating the boy and girl walking side by side, their hands intertwined. It was a scene so perfect, so timeless, it looked like a painting. Tiffany's triumphant laughter died in her throat. Felix's condescending smirk froze on his face. Tessa and Samantha were completely stunned, wondering if they were hallucinating. Kevin stared, his jaw on the floor, at the impossibly perfect pair in front of him. When he finally found his voice, a surge of pure, unadulterated vindication erupted from his chest. Holy shit! That single exclamation finally broke the silence in the clearing. Tessa and Samantha snapped out of it, though their faces were still etched with disbelief as they stared at Leo and Claire. You too. Leo and Claire hadn't expected to run into classmates at the top of the hill, and for a moment, they froze too. Reacting first, Leo quickly adopted an air of stern righteousness. I was tired of studying, so I came to the park for some fresh air. It just so happens Miss Sterling was here too. Purely a coincidence. Beside him, Claire nodded calmly, her expression unruffled as her eyes swept over their classmates. Desk mates have a certain huppo. It's perfectly reasonable, isn't it? Reasonable? Is it? Tessa and Samantha swallowed hard, their eyes drifting down to where Leo and their friend's hands were still tightly clasped. Then you guys are. Claire followed their gaze down to her hand in Leo's. Without a hint of a blush, she explained coolly. The path up the hill was slippery. Leo was afraid I'd fall, so he held my hand. It's all because of the rain yesterday. Just a coincidence. Leo nodded in vehement agreement. Exactly. Reasonable. One says coincidence, the other says reasonable. What was this, a double act? Tessa and Samantha felt giant question marks popping up over their heads. Kevin, however, was beaming, nodding furiously. Reasonable. Totally reasonable. Couldn't be more reasonable. The frustration from moments ago vanished completely. He spun around to face the still dumbfounded Tiffany and Felix, feeling utterly vindicated. See? What did I tell you? Now who's full of themselves? Tiffany and Felix were truly speechless. They didn't know Leo, but Claire Sterling, Northwood High's legendary Ice Queen, was unmistakable. And precisely because of that, seeing her holding hands with a guy was a shock that shattered their entire perception of reality. Especially Felix, staring at the untouchable goddess of his dreams, her hand held by some average-looking guy. He felt as if his world was collapsing. His entire worldview was about to detonate into dust. His head was buzzing. How is this possible? No, how does he deserve this? Just then, Claire's cool gaze swept over Felix and Tiffany. And they are. Startled back to reality, Felix was suddenly nervous and excited to be addressed by her. His mind raced, trying to formulate an elegant and witty self-introduction. But Kevin beat him to it. Class president, they're from the class next door, class 11. This is Tiffany Gua. As for this other guy, Kevin glanced at Felix and grinned. He's not important. He's busy hiding from Batman. Felix stared blankly for a second before the insult registered, and his face flushed a deep, humiliated red. You, Kevin, don't be a jerk, Tessa chided. Kevin just laughed. Hey, it's just a joke. I'm sure Felix here is a big enough man not to mind, right? He said it out loud, but inside he was ecstatic. Leo's comeback line was a gift that kept on giving. Getting instant revenge felt so good. Samantha turned to Claire. Since we're all here, why don't we all look around together? Now that they'd run into each other, it would be awkward to refuse. Claire gave a slight nod, her expression unreadable. Fine. There was no separate ticket for the wildlife exhibit. The group walked through the entrance and soon found themselves on an open-air platform surrounded by iron railings. Inside were cages of all sizes, each housing a different animal. Owls, foxes, a gray wolf, various exotic birds, and even a giraffe. It was a small exhibit, mostly birds, with no lions or tigers. But for a small town like Northwood, it was a rare treat. Tessa and Samantha were already squealing with delight, their eyes sparkling at the sight of the cuter animals. Even Tiffany, ever the little princess, couldn't help but look around with genuine excitement. Claire stuck close to Leo's side as they walked. Now that they were with a group, holding hands was less convenient. Outwardly, she appeared indifferent, but inside, her mini-me was pouting, not looking at the animals at all, but glancing repeatedly at Leo's hand. Felix wasn't looking at the animals either. His eyes kept darting between Leo and Claire. With his supposedly brilliant mind, he couldn't for the life of him figure out what this Leo guy had that he didn't. How had he managed to score a date with the school's Ice Queen? Before he could solve the puzzle, the group reached a corner of the exhibit where cages were set over a shallow pool. A few lazy golden pythons were slithering slowly inside. Snakes! Tessa and Samantha shrieked, their faces pale with fright. Tessa instinctively stumbled back and grabbed onto Kevin's sleeve, half falling into his arms. Kevin had been startled too, but with his crush in his arms, he was instantly filled with the courage of a lion. He wrapped an arm around Tessa's waist and declared, "Don't worry, I'm here." Meanwhile, Tiffany also yelped and threw herself into Felix's arms. But the way she kept shouting, "I'm scared," while actively snuggling against him suggested at least half of it was an act. Claire observed these scenes. The normally cool-as-ice campus queen was for once moved. So, that's a thing you can do. Her inner mini-me slapped its thigh. Can't fall behind. The next second, the campus queen let out a soft, cool cry. Ah! Before Leo could react, she took 2 casual steps back and gracefully fell right into his arms. The sudden warmth and softness in his arms left Leo bewildered. He looked down at his desk mate. What's wrong? Her face perfectly composed, the campus queen replied calmly. There are snakes. So scary. Leo looked up at the harmless, lazy-looking pythons, then back down at the cool, collected girl in his arms. A giant question mark slowly formed over his head. She didn't look scared at all. After leaving the wildlife exhibit, the group slowly made their way down the hill. The sky was beginning to darken. Tiffany looked at Felix with hopeful eyes. Felix, let's get some dinner. I know a great place nearby. My treat. Her focus was still entirely on him. Felix nodded. Sure. Why don't we all go together? He was responding to Tiffany, but his eyes kept sneaking glances at Claire. Before Claire had shown up, he'd been more interested in Tessa, one of the prettiest girls in Class 10. But the moment Claire arrived, all other girls ceased to exist. What were Tiffany or Tessa compared to the legendary Ice Queen of Northwood High? Besides, Felix had his own scheme brewing. This Leo guy seemed completely unremarkable, aside from being decently handsome, but not nearly as handsome as himself. If he could go on a date and even hold hands with Claire, why couldn't Felix? All he needed was an opportunity. Everyone's eyes subconsciously turned to Claire. Though she had been the quietest one, her presence naturally made her the center of attention. It felt only right to get her opinion first. Claire's expression was as placid as ever. She turned slightly to Leo. What do you think? Felix and Tiffany paused, confused as to why the great Claire Sterling would need to ask for this guy's opinion. Leo didn't find it strange at all. He scratched his head. Me? I'm fine with whatever. Before he could finish, Kevin cut him off with a loud, urgent shout. No, you're not. Everyone stared at Kevin in surprise. Under their collective gaze, he stood tall with an air of righteous gravity. It's getting late. I think we should all just head home. We need to get to bed early. We have school tomorrow. He delivered the lines with a sincerity that no one thought him capable of. A second later, he turned to Claire, his expression instantly shifting to that of a fawning sycophant. Class president. I'm right, aren't I? Claire glanced at Kevin and gave a slight nod. You are right. Her tone was still cool and detached, but her inner mini-me was nodding in satisfaction. Not bad, the kid's learning. Good call this time. Keep it up. Receiving Claire's approval was like a shot of adrenaline for Kevin. He beamed, practically glowing with triumph. You all heard her. All right, show's over. Everyone go home to your mommies. Tessa cast a thoughtful look between Leo and Claire, then smiled. Okay, let's call it a night. With the students from Class 10 in agreement, Felix and Tiffany had no ground to object, despite their disappointment. The group said their goodbyes and split up. Before leaving, Kevin pulled Leo aside, hissing in a conspiratorial whisper, Go for it, man. Your bro will always have your back. He gave Leo a supportive fist pump, then darted away just as Claire's gaze flickered in their direction. Leo watched him go, completely baffled. Go for what? What's with him today? With everyone gone, Claire walked back over to him. Ready to eat? She asked, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. But you just said Kevin was right. Leo thought, confused. He subconsciously felt his pocket. Another meal, and his allowance would be completely gone. Claire's next words floated over, as if reading his mind. My treat. Leo's spirits lifted instantly. Let's go. Time to eat. As Claire explained it, Leo had paid for the tickets at the park, so it was only fair that she pay for dinner in return. It was a matter of reciprocity. Reasonable, Leo declared, sitting at a table in Pop's Fry Shack, completely convinced. His desk mate truly was a genius. Her logic was always so clear and persuasive. Pop's Fry Shack was a local institution on Park Road, just at the foot of Beacon Hill, and had been in business for over a decade. They specialized in all things fried, chicken, beef, tofu, cauliflower. If you could stick it on a skewer and fry it, they had it. Thanks to fresh ingredients and a secret sauce, the place was always packed. It was Sunday night, and the shack was buzzing with customers, mostly students from the local middle and high schools. When Leo and Claire found a table in the corner, they immediately drew the attention of half the people in the restaurant. Everyone was captivated by Claire's cool, stunning presence. And when she took off her pink baseball cap, revealing a face so beautiful it was almost otherworldly, every boy and man in the place, from teenagers to men in their 40s, collectively sucked in a breath. She was gorgeous. The next second, all eyes shifted to the guy sitting across from her, instantly filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. That kid, what did he ever do to deserve this? The target of their collective animosity was blissfully unaware. He called over a waiter, briefly consulted with his desk mate, and then rattled off a long list of items from the menu. Then he sat back, happily awaiting their food. Soon, a huge platter of fried skewers was brought to their table. Leo dug in immediately, devouring the food with gusto. He didn't forget to motion to his desk mate. You eat too. Claire's movements were far more elegant. She picked up a skewer, took a bite, and her eyebrows relaxed in appreciation. It really was good. a familiar, comforting taste from her memories. She had barely finished one skewer when the glutton across from her was already starting on his third. The male customers secretly watching them were practically in tears. "You monster! You're with a beautiful girl. Can't you show a little class when you eat?" And then, a scene unfolded that shattered their hearts completely. While eating her second beef skewer, Claire suddenly frowned. She quickly pulled the skewer away, stuck out her tongue, and started fanning her mouth with her hand, her face flushing slightly. "What's wrong?" Leo noticed. Claire's brows furrowed. "It's spicy." "Spicy?" Leo was puzzled. "It seems fine to me." "It is spicy," she insisted. "If you don't believe me, try it." With that, without changing her expression in the slightest, she held out her half-eaten skewer directly to Leo. In an instant, the restaurant seemed to fall silent. Countless male customers and even the staff stare with wide eyes. Holy crap, they're sharing a skewer? That's an indirect kiss. Leo hesitated for a moment when Claire offered him the skewer. He wasn't a clueless kid. He knew what this implied. Two people of the opposite sex sharing food like this? It seemed a little too intimate. He looked at his desk mate. "Is this?" "Okay." He didn't mind, but he worried about the rumors it might start and the effect it would have on her reputation. Claire raised an eyebrow, her expression cool and composed. "What's not okay? I said it's spicy, and you don't believe me. You trying it for yourself is perfectly reasonable, isn't it?" She said it with such casual confidence, without a hint of anything unusual, that she seemed completely guileless. Leo decided he was overthinking things. He silently scolded himself. "Look at her. So pure. You're the one with the dirty mind. Indirect kiss? She's the pristine campus queen. She would never even think of something like that." "Eat." Leo took the skewer without further hesitation. "All right, I'll try it." He took a bite and savored the flavor. "Doesn't seem that spicy to me." Claire's expression remained unchanged. "Really? Then you should eat more of it." Her voice was so calm and natural that no one would suspect a thing. Little did he know, her inner mini-me was gleefully pulling out a tiny notebook and scribbling a new entry with a flourish. Indirect kiss. Accomplished. After they finished dinner, Claire went to pay while Leo waited outside. By the time he stepped out, the sky was completely dark. The streetlights of Park Road were on, casting a warm glow over the bustling, noisy scene. The sidewalks were lined with small vendor stalls, their owners calling out to passers-by. Across the street, at the base of Beacon Hill, an inflatable bounce house had been set up, filled with laughing children and their parents. It was the familiar, lively atmosphere of his hometown. Just watching it brought a sense of peace. Leo smiled faintly. As someone reborn, he didn't always feel the need to rush, to seize every advantage and get ahead. Sometimes just slowly reliving the carefree days of his youth had its own unique flavor. But just as he was enjoying the tranquil scene, a discordant note forcibly inserted itself. A familiar female voice called out from nearby. "Leo." It was all too familiar. Every time that voice called his name, trouble was sure to follow. Leo frowned and looked up. Sure enough, it was Sarah Lynn, walking toward him with another guy. Dressed for a weekend outing, Sarah was meticulously put together in a pretty dress and small black leather shoes. Her hair had been curled, making her look like a little princess. The guy next to her, however, was overweight. He was about 5'7" and had to be at least 180 pounds. He wasn't ugly, but a couple of zits dotted his face. His clothes, however, were clearly expensive. The brand-name sneakers on his feet had to cost at least $300, an extreme rarity for a high school student in this era. Leo paused when he saw him. Even more than Sarah, he remembered the heavy-set guy. In his past life, on Sarah's birthday, he had rushed through a downpour to give her a gift, only to find her passionately kissing a rich kid. That rich kid was this guy, Mason's son. Seeing Leo standing alone in front of Pop's fry shack, Sarah felt a jolt of surprise and triumphant glee. Mason's son, from Class 4, had asked her out for dinner and a movie tonight. Aesthetically, a guy like Mason wasn't her type, but his family was rich, he spent money freely, and he was willing to spend it on her. That put him at the top of her list of potential candidates. She had spent hours getting ready, even wearing the expensive dress Mason had bought her. And now, right after dinner, she'd run into Leo. He had walked right into her trap. The last time they'd met at the school gate, Leo's merciless mockery had been the single greatest humiliation of her life. The fact that a lapdog who used to worship the ground she walked on had suddenly turned so cold was infuriating. For the past few nights, she'd tossed and turned, grinding her teeth in frustration, just waiting for a chance to get her revenge. Now that chance had arrived. Walking up to Leo with Mason, Sarah put on a surprised expression. "What a coincidence. You're out tonight, too." Before he could answer, she continued with a beaming smile. Oh, right. I forgot to introduce you. This is Mason's son from class 4. You could say. She paused for effect. He's my boyfriend. As she spoke, she deliberately wrapped her arm around Mason's in front of Leo. Her words and actions made Leo look genuinely surprised. Even Mason, the recipient of her affection, was shocked and delighted. He'd been chasing Sarah for a while without making any real progress. He figured he'd have to drop some serious cash on an expensive birthday present to finally win her over. He never expected her to publicly declare their relationship like this. Mason didn't hesitate. He pulled his arm free only to wrap it around her waist, pulling her possessively closer. He grinned at Leo. That's right. I'm Sarah's boyfriend. Nice to meet you. Nestled in Mason's embrace, Sarah secretly watched Leo's face. Seeing his surprised expression, she felt a surge of vindictive pleasure. How do you like that? Jealous, aren't you? You're hurting, right? You said you didn't care about me, Leo Wallace? Well, now I have a boyfriend. Even if you regret it and come begging for me to take you back, it's too late. The feeling was intoxicating, but she wasn't satisfied yet. She decided to twist the knife a little deeper. She turned to Leo with a saccharine smile. Leo, aren't you going to wish us well? Sarah had completely misread the situation. Leo was surprised, but not out of jealousy. He was surprised because, in his past life, Sarah and Mason hadn't gotten together until right before high school graduation. This time, it had happened much earlier. Seeing it with his own eyes, Leo felt a profound sense of relief, and she wanted his blessing. He wouldn't hesitate for a second. Leo looked at the couple with sincere, heartfelt earnestness. I wish you two a long and happy life together. May you be shackled to each other forever, and never be unleashed to plague the rest of humanity. A green tea queen and a rich playboy who bought affection with his family's money. They were a match made in heaven. If they were tied down together, they couldn't go around ruining other innocent boys and girls. It was like the universe itself was doing Northwood High a favor. Mason and Sarah were both stunned into silence. He didn't understand what Leo meant, while she couldn't believe her ears. How could this be? Isn't he jealous? She had just announced Mason was her boyfriend. After all the years Leo had been obsessed with her, how could he not look even a little bit hurt? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. He's just putting on a brave face. Convinced of her assessment, Sarah smirked inwardly, but her outward smile grew even sweeter. She snuggled closer to Mason. Don't worry, Mason and I will be very happy together. Then her tone shifted, feigning concern. But you're still all alone. Seeing us so happy, it must be hard for you, right? Leo blinked, then waved his hands dismissively. Not at all. Seeing you two together makes me happier than words can say. Sarah. After several failed attempts to get a rise out of him, Sarah's own facade began to crumble. She dropped the act and sneered. Stop pretending, Leo. I'm telling you, this is the kind of guy I want for a boyfriend. Someone like Mason. You kept saying you were too good for me, right? She spat. Well, look at you now. I'm taken, and you're still just a pathetic, lonely loser. It's too late for regrets. Then, as if remembering something, she feigned a sudden realization. Oh, that's right. Don't you have that campus queen deskmate? Last I heard, you two were supposedly so close. How come you're out all by yourself tonight? Couldn't get her to come with you? Leo glanced back toward the restaurant. Oh, she's inside paying. Sarah burst out laughing, no longer hiding her contempt. Still trying to save face, Leo? Claire Sterling probably felt sorry for you and said a few nice things. Don't be so delusional as to think you actually have some special relationship with her. Her paying for you. She scoffed. Why don't you just say you two are already dating? She shook Mason's arm playfully. Right, Mason? It finally dawned on Mason what was happening. He looked at Leo with the smug derision of someone watching a court jester. So you're the guy. The one who challenged Julian Sue for the campus queen at the school store. Dude, you're a total clown. Suddenly, footsteps approached. Sarah and Mason turned and froze, petrified by what they saw. The Ice Queen, dressed in a fresh, bright athletic-style outfit they had never seen at school, a pink baseball cap on her head, emerged gracefully from Pop's fry shack. She tucked her wallet away, walked over to Leo, and, as if no one else existed, naturally linked her arm with his. Leo, what's taking you so long? That single, casual use of his first name was like a 10-ton bomb detonating in Sarah and Mason's ears, leaving them dizzy and disoriented. Claire's gaze then drifted over to them, as if she were just now noticing their presence. She frowned slightly and shot Leo a chiding look. Didn't I tell you to stay away from unsavory people? Leo caught on instantly, playing along with a sigh. I know, but some things are just sticky. You can't shake them off. Sticky. Things. The words were like a dagger, plunging straight into the heart of a certain class beauty from Class 7. Claire nodded sympathetically, her voice soft. "I've paid. Let's go home. We don't want to be tainted by bad luck." And with that, she turned, her arms still linked with Leo's, and they walked away, never giving Sarah or Mason another glance. Mason stood rooted to the spot, completely dumbfounded. As their figures disappeared, he finally came to his senses, his eyes wide with disbelief. Wait, was that really Claire Sterling? The Ice Queen is actually on a date on a weekend? And then she paid. As a rich kid who was used to buying girls' affection, Mason's entire worldview had just been shattered. He was overcome with a sudden, profound respect for Leo, feeling an urge to bow down and ask him to be his mentor. This guy's a master, a legend. He should open a class and teach us all. Beside him, Sarah finally snapped out of her stupor. Her pretty face was twisted with a mixture of humiliation and shock. How? How is this possible? Why did the untouchable Claire Sterling keep showing up at Leo's side? Everything before could have been explained away, but seeing them together on a weekend, in casual clothes, eating at a fry shack, it could only mean one thing. Their relationship was undeniably, extraordinarily close. Forced to accept this unbelievable conclusion, Sarah's heart churned with a storm of emotions. Shock, humiliation, rage, and a flicker of something she would never admit to herself. The frantic panic of a little girl whose favorite toy has just been snatched away. Claire walked with her arm linked through Leo's, a picture of natural intimacy, until they reached the street corner. There, she stopped and gracefully released him. She looked up, her expression calm and composed. "Don't misunderstand." Before she could finish, Leo cut her off, his face a mask of perfect understanding. "Don't worry, I get it. Just a friend helping out a friend. A heroic deed. I won't misunderstand a thing." Claire's inner mini-me pouted. "You little dummy. Why does your brain have to work so fast now? It would have been fine if you did misunderstand." Just then, a black Maybach pulled up silently to the curb. When Leo saw the emblem, he paused, a flicker of confusion on his face. "This car, it looks familiar." 2 nights ago, after the late study hall, Leo and Kevin had been biking home. Kevin had been jumpy the whole time, convinced the car was following them. Leo hadn't thought anything of it. But seeing this black Maybach now, something clicked. It felt vaguely familiar. Hadn't he seen this car on his way home last time? And later, parked in the temporary lot by his apartment building? He could have sworn he'd seen it. Seeing the thoughtful look on Leo's face, Claire's heart skipped a beat. "Is this your family's car?" Leo asked, looking at her. Claire feigned a calm nod. "Yeah, why?" Leo scratched his head. "Nothing, it just looks familiar. I feel like it was following me home the other day." "Really?" Claire said, nonchalantly. "There are a lot of Maybachs in Northwood. They all look the same." She glanced at him. "Besides, who drives around tailing people? You've been watching too many spy movies. It was just a coincidence." Leo thought about it for a moment, then nodded in realization. Reasonable. It was getting late, so they said their goodbyes. Claire got in the back seat of the Maybach and closed the door. She watched through the window as Leo walked away, then let out a soft sigh of relief. From the driver's seat, Mr. Joe looked at her in the rearview mirror. "Oh, Miss Sterling?" Claire nodded. "Yes." The Maybach was about to pull away when her soft, cool voice came from the back seat again. "Mr. Joe, next weekend, you don't need to pick me up. I can get home on my own." In the front seat, Mr. Joe's hands paused almost imperceptibly on the steering wheel. He responded in his usual steady, calm voice. "Understood." But where Claire couldn't see, his eyes widened in the rearview mirror in absolute shock. "Mr. Joe." That night, back in her room, Sarah Lynn tossed and turned, unable to sleep. The image of Claire linking her arm so intimately with Leo's played on a loop in her mind. An indescribable feeling, like a persistent sickness, crept into her heart, leaving her feeling restless and agitated. She was biting her pillow in frustration, filled with an unbearable mix of jealousy and indignation. That Leo, he's supposed to be mine. She felt like a little girl whose favorite toy had been stolen. It wasn't that she loved the toy so much, but the fact that someone else had it was intolerable. And there was a sense of panic she refused to acknowledge. If her rival for the toy was the universally acknowledged campus queen of Northwood High, then she, the so-called beauty of Class 7, stood no chance at all. After another bout of restless turning, Sarah finally sat up, grabbed her small, stylish Nokia flip phone, and logged onto AM. She found Leo's username in her buddy list and hesitated, typing and deleting messages over and over. Finally, she took a deep breath and sent one. "You up?" Almost instantly, a new message alert chimed. Ding, ding, ding. For a split second, Sarah felt a surge of triumphant excitement. A proud smirk touched her lips. "See, he still cares about me. Look how fast he replied." She eagerly opened the chat window, only to be met with a line of cold, impersonal text. "Your message could not be delivered. This user is not on your buddy list." Sarah froze. The new week began on Monday. During morning homeroom, Mr. Harrison stood at the front of the class and announced that midterms would start on Tuesday. His face was stern as he warned everyone to take it seriously and perform well. As he spoke, his gaze lingered pointedly on a certain student in the back row. Leo, however, was the picture of calm. He had reviewed everything he needed to. He felt no pressure at all. After second period, it was time for the morning break. The entire student body flooded onto the main field, stretching and moving to the upbeat music piped over the loudspeakers. As usual, Leo took the opportunity to admire the graceful figure of his desk mate in the adjacent class line. When the break ended, he turned to head back to class with the crowd, but a familiar female voice called out from behind him. "Leo, wait." He turned to see Sarah Lynn hurrying over from the Class 7 line, her pretty face flushed with anger. She got right in his face. "Why did you block me?" "Block?" Leo was confused for a second. Then he remembered. "I didn't block you," he corrected. "I deleted you." "You?" Sarah was furious. She stomped her foot. "I know you're just trying to make me jealous because you're mad at me." "Well, it worked okay. Can you stop this now?" A question mark slowly formed over Leo's head. He looked at her as if she were insane. How can one person be so completely delusional? Seeing the expression on his face, Sarah assumed he was still hung up on what happened yesterday. Her tone softened slightly. "What I said yesterday, it was just a joke. I'm not really dating anyone. Mason and I are just messing around. So you don't have to worry. Can we just go back to how things were before?" She finished with that familiar, coy tone she always used. Leo's expression turned serious. "Absolutely not. I don't like girls who just mess around." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving a stunned Sarah in his wake. She snapped out of it and chased after him, blurting out, "Can you stop being so childish? Claire Sterling is just messing around with you too." Leo stopped and turned back to face her. "And you're not. Since everyone is just messing around, why wouldn't I mess around with her? Miss Sterling gets good grades. She's beautiful. She's nice to talk to." Sarah's face paled. This speech sounded horribly familiar. "You, don't you say it." But Leo was already on a roll and couldn't stop himself. "Unlike you, you're short, and not that good looking." Fatality. Round 2. Sarah covered her face and ran away, possibly in tears. It didn't matter. Leo shook his head and was about to leave when another voice called his name. "Leo." He looked up to see his desk mate walking toward him, her expression as cool as ever. "Come on, let's go to the school store." As she spoke, Claire casually lifted her hand, a clear invitation for him to take it. Leo glanced at the massive crowd of students still flooding the path to the store and understood immediately. Right, too crowded to get through alone. So, under the astonished gazes of dozens of students, he righteously took his desk mate's hand and began to navigate the human traffic jam. It was just desk mates helping each other out. Perfectly reasonable. Holding hands on the way to the school store, an act that seemed so reasonable to Leo, meant something entirely different to the student body of Northwood High. The situation escalated at lunchtime, when Claire casually invited Leo to eat with her, her tone perfectly composed. "You took me to the store this morning. I'll treat you to lunch. It's only fair." Perfectly reasonable. The word treat was all it took. Leo agreed without a second thought. When the two of them were spotted eating together at a small diner across the street from the school, the news spread like wildfire, sending shockwaves through every social circle at Northwood High. Their ice queen, on a date with a guy, and they were holding hands in public. The story of the confrontation at the school store last week was quickly dug up. More details emerged, including the rumor that Claire had actually stood up for him, declaring him her personal guard. The Northwood High unofficial forums and every class group chat exploded. No one could believe it. Someone found out who he was. Leo Wallace? Who? Never heard of him. Who is this guy? When they learned that Leo was just an average student from Class 10, that his only connection to Claire was being her desk mate, and that his grades were near the bottom of their year, people were even more baffled and heartbroken. Some refused to believe it. They sought out his supposed best friend for confirmation. When asked about the rumors, a certain student named Kevin Zhao, who wished to remain anonymous, adopted a mysterious air. "I cannot say. A man as tight-lipped as myself would never tell you that I personally saw our class president holding hands with Leo every day on the way to the store, or that they even went to the wildlife exhibit at Beacon Hill Park together over the weekend." That kind of information must be kept secret. We have to be discreet. The inquiring students listened, dumbfounded, and walked away even more shocked than before. The gossip eventually reached the ears of Julian Sue in Class 13. While his cronies were fuming on his behalf, Julian himself appeared unconcerned, offering a casual smile. It's fine. They're just baseless rumors. A girl as exceptional as Claire would never fall for someone like that. As for that Leo Wallace, the handsome academic star of the humanities track paused. A cold glint flashed in his eyes as he delivered his verdict in a dismissive tone. He's just a clown. The two people at the center of the storm, however, seemed completely oblivious. They ate lunch. They walked back to class together. On the way, Leo noticed a lot of people staring at them, but he just assumed they were jealous that he got a walk with the campus queen. It was only natural. His desk mate's explanation was even simpler. They probably just admire how well we get along. Don't pay them any mind. Leo nodded in agreement. Reasonable. Monday afternoon's last period was P.E., which also happened to be the very last P.E. class of their high school careers for the students of Class 10. After the midterms tomorrow, the final month before the SATs would be dedicated entirely to self-study and review. On the small practice field, the P.E. teacher, who was famous for being sick or having his class rescheduled by other teachers, was feeling unusually magnanimous. He waved a hand dismissively. Last P.E. class, do whatever you want. I know your focus is on the SATs, he continued. But as your P.E. teacher, I have to tell you, while you're studying, it's also important to maintain a healthy body. This is the prime of your lives, physically speaking. After his grand speech, the teacher strolled away, leaving the students of Class 10 to look at each other for a moment before scattering. The boys started games of basketball and volleyball or rushed to claim the ping-pong tables. Most of the girls headed to the school store for snacks. A few just went back to the classroom to get in some extra studying. Leo was standing by himself with nothing to do when his best friend, Kevin, sidled up to him conspiratorially. So, Leo, how's the progress? Leo nodded. Not bad. I've reviewed everything I need to. Kevin rolled his eyes. I'm not asking about that. I mean, you and our campus queen. How far have you gotten? He glanced around furtively as he said the last part, lowering his voice. How far? Leo was completely lost. He answered honestly, we just have a normal desk-mate relationship. Kevin gave him a thumbs up, his face a mask of perfect understanding. Got it. Keeping on the down low, right? That's my boy, Leo. Making big moves in silence, then dropping the bombshell announcement at the end to shock everyone. Genius. A vein throbbed in Leo's temple. What are you talking about? He was starting to find it strange. Why had Kevin suddenly done a complete 180? He seemed almost desperate for Leo and Claire to become a couple. Theirs was the purest of friendships. Holding hands, eating together, going to the park. That was all just a series of coincidences and reasonable actions. In his past life, he'd had a secret crush on her, sure. But in this life, he hadn't really thought about it that way. She was the Ice Queen, always so aloof. And unlike him, she hadn't been reborn. Why would she suddenly be interested in him? With that in mind, Leo felt the need to set Kevin straight. Don't go spreading rumors. Me and Miss Sterling are just ordinary desk mates. Nothing special. As they were talking, some of the girls from their class returned from the store with snacks and drinks. A few of the guys playing basketball saw them and jokingly asked for a sip of their drinks. After some playful banter, a girl who was good friends with one of the guys would sometimes toss him a bottle she'd bought for him. Any guy who received such treatment would be mercilessly teased by his friends, while the girl would blush and the guy would beam with pride. Then, footsteps approached. Claire Sterling walked over, holding 2 drinks, her stunning presence immediately capturing everyone's attention. Under the watchful eyes of the entire field, the campus queen gracefully walked up to Leo, held out an ice-cold can of Sprite, and said casually, I happened to buy an extra one. It's for you. In an instant, the entire practice field fell silent. The practice field was dead quiet. Students from Class 10, and even from other classes having P.E., couldn't help but stare. Their eyes were glued to Claire and the can of Sprite in her hand. They were practically hypnotized. Countless guys swallowed hard, imagining what it would be like if she were offering that Sprite to them. How glorious would that be? Kevin, getting a front row seat to this drama, shot Leo an exasperated look. His expression said it all. Dude, she's coincidentally bringing you a drink in front of everyone during P.E. class, and you're still trying to sell the ordinary desk mates line? Who are you kidding? Leo, however, remained oblivious. Hearing his desk mate's cool explanation, he nodded in understanding. Reasonable. He took the can, popped the top, and took a long gulp. The cold soda was refreshing, instantly invigorating him. Ah, nice. Meanwhile, Claire opened her own canned watermelon juice and took a small sip, her pretty eyes narrowing slightly in satisfaction. Leo lowered his Sprite and curiously eyed the can in her hand. The brand looked foreign. He'd seen it in the school store in his past life, but it was ridiculously expensive and he'd never tried it. Noticing his gaze, Claire raised an eyebrow and gestured with her can. Want some? Her words stunned everyone, especially Kevin. Their brains couldn't process it. What does she mean? Is she going to go back to the store and buy another one for him? The next moment, a scene unfolded that shattered their entire perception of reality. Claire, her expression perfectly placid, simply held out the can she had just sipped from. Try it. Leo actually looked a little embarrassed. That's probably not a good idea. I'm already drinking your Sprite. Claire was unfazed. It's fine. We're desk mates. Sharing a sip won't kill you. It's killing us. It's like you're stabbing us right in the heart, cried the silent, tormented souls of countless boys watching this unfold. This is a drink the campus queen just drank from. How could she just give it to someone else? That's an indirect kiss. Leo considered it and decided she was right. He graciously took the can, instead of putting his mouth to the rim. However, he tilted his head back and poured a little of the juice into his mouth. The onlooking guys breathed a collective sigh of relief. Okay, not an actual indirect kiss. The kid has some sense, he knows his limits. But then, Claire looked at the Sprite in Leo's hand and tilted her chin toward it. Let me have a sip of yours, too. The air went still once more. Kevin, who was practically numb to this by now, felt an internal tremor. Holy crap, can they get any more creative with this? It's like she's on a mission today, determined to make this indirect kiss happen one way or another. The surrounding guys looked ready to explode. Don't you dare, kid. If you hand her that Sprite, we'll... And then Leo handed her the Sprite. Reasonable. In the dead silence, under the gaze of dozens of eyes, Claire took the can, slowly brought it to her lips, and took a small sip. Their lips had touched the same spot. Crack. It was the sound of countless hearts shattering on the spot. Claire drank, then handed the can back to Leo, her expression as cool as ever. Thanks. You're welcome, Leo replied, taking the Sprite back and handing her the watermelon juice. At that exact moment, a sudden whoosh cut through the air as something came flying at them from behind. Kevin, standing right next to Leo, didn't even have time to react. All he saw was a dark, circular blur hurtling toward the back of Leo's head. Students farther away recognized what it was and let out a collective gasp. Suddenly, Leo spun around, his arm shooting out to meet the object. Thwack! The sound was like a dull explosion, a wave of displaced air rippling out from the point of impact. When the sound faded, everyone stared, their hearts still pounding. A basketball was held firmly in Leo's single, outstretched hand. A wave of shocked gasps rippled through the crowd. Kevin and the other students stared at Leo, their eyes wide with disbelief. He caught it with one hand, and it was a sneak attack from behind. Holy shit, what kind of reflexes were those? That was so badass. In that moment, only Claire's expression tightened. She looked at Leo, her voice sharp. Are you okay? Leo shook his head. I'm fine. He casually tossed the ball in his hand, then looked up to see Julian Sue walking toward them. That throw hadn't just been aimed at him. His desk may have been right there, easily within range of being hit by accident. For the first time, Leo's expression turned cold. Don't you have eyes? The person who had thrown the ball was none other than the handsome academic star from Class 13, Julian Sue. His class was also having P.E. He'd been casually shooting hoops with his friends when he glanced over and saw Leo and Claire. The sight of Claire giving Leo a drink had ignited a flame of rage in his heart. Without thinking, he had hurled the basketball at Leo. Hard. He had hoped to hit him in the back of the head, maybe not to seriously injure him, but at least to humiliate him in front of everyone. He never imagined Leo would be fast enough to turn and catch it with one hand. Now, instead of being embarrassed, Leo had just pulled off an incredibly cool move. But Julian was already thinking of a new plan. He walked over, a casual smile on his face. Sorry about that. My hand slipped. Kevin, having recovered from the shock, was furious. Slipped? You were aiming right for the back of his head. You did it on purpose. Do you have any idea how bad that could have been if it hit him? Julian just shrugged, unconcerned. But it didn't hit him, did it? He looked at Leo, a smirk playing on his lips. I didn't know you played. One-on-one. You and me. You in? Julian didn't bother hiding his intentions. It was a direct challenge. Hearing this, many of the students' expressions changed. They knew all about Julian's basketball skills. He wasn't just a top student. His skills on the court were just as impressive. He'd made the school's varsity team as a sophomore, and while he wasn't a starter, he was a key player off the bench and had represented the school in county-level tournaments. He might not be on the level of a dedicated sports scholarship student, but against a regular player, he was more than a match. Kevin panicked and grabbed Leo's arm. "Leo, don't do it. He's just trying to bully you." Leo's eyes narrowed as he looked at Julian, saying nothing. Julian wasn't in a hurry. He waited, a playful, mocking look on his face. "Of course, if you're scared, you can just admit it in front of everyone. I don't mind." He was deliberately trying to provoke him. He wanted to bully him. He had calculated that, in front of this crowd, and especially in front of Claire, Leo would lose face whether he accepted or declined. "Stop trying to bait him, you asshole." Kevin glared at Julian, then turned back to Leo, still holding his arm. He looked desperately at Claire. Class president, talk some sense into him. He was worried he couldn't get through to Leo, but maybe Claire could. But at that moment, Claire's gaze shifted from Leo to the basketball in his hand. She seemed to be remembering something, a thoughtful look on her face. Then she looked up at Leo and asked softly, "Are you confident?" She wasn't trying to stop him. It was more like she was seeking confirmation. Leo raised an eyebrow and smiled. "We'll see." "Kevin?" Question mark. He finally processed what was happening and his panic intensified. "Dude, I'm over here trying to save you, and you two are acting like this is no big deal. Julian is going to wipe the floor with you." Before Kevin could protest again, Claire nodded and said coolly, "Okay, I'll be cheering for you." Leo just grunted in acknowledgement, then turned to Julian. "One-on-one, right? You're on." With that one simple sentence, it was settled. Even Julian was taken aback for a second. Then he grinned, a cold light dancing in his eyes. "Interesting. Let's go." On the basketball half-court, a crowd of dozens had gathered to watch, all holding their breath in anticipation. The game was one-on-one, American rules, first to 11, 3-dribble limit, one game to decide it all. Leo got the ball first. Standing outside the three-point line, Julian smirked at him. "I'll let you have the first shot." He tossed the ball to Leo. Leo caught it and smiled back. "Thanks." The word had barely left his mouth when, without any warning, Leo rose up in a smooth, classic jump shot. It was so fast that Julian barely had time to react. He turned his head just in time to see the ball arc through the air and swish cleanly through the net. Nothing but net. 3 points. The ball bounced on the pavement. Julian was stunned. Kevin's jaw dropped. "Holy crap." A wave of shocked gasps and exclamations erupted from the crowd. Amid the rising chorus of surprise, Claire, standing coolly on the sideline, raised a delicate eyebrow, a knowing look on her face. Julian forced himself to calm down and reset. He picked up the ball, his face grim, and walked back to Leo. Again, he passed the ball back. Leo nodded again. "Thanks." The word hung in the air for a second before he suddenly dipped low, taking a single, explosive dribble to his left, faking a drive to the basket. Julian, now on high alert, instantly reacted, shifting to cut him off. But the moment his weight shifted, Leo came to a dead stop, pulled the ball back with a sharp step back, and was once again behind the three-point line. He had completely thrown Julian off balance. Another clean, fluid jump shot. The ball traced another perfect arc against the sky and dropped through the hoop. Swish! Another three-pointer. 2 in a row. This time, the entire practice field erupted. Kevin was so excited he practically jumped out of his shoes, yelling at the top of his lungs, "Leo, you're a beast." Julian's face turned deathly pale. "He tricked me. That bastard. His shot is insane, and he's a calculating son of a bitch." Amid the commotion, a small smile touched Claire's lips. Just as I thought. No one else knew about Leo's basketball skills. But she, having read his old diary, knew some of his little secrets. Leo had loved basketball since he was a kid, and had even made the county's U11 youth team in elementary school. Though he focused on his studies in middle school, he never lost his love for the game. In high school, being introverted and struggling with his classes, he rarely got to play. But whenever he was feeling down, he would go to the court by himself and practice his shooting. Especially after he fell for Sarah Lynn. Every time he was rejected or hurt by the green tea beauty of Class 7, he would go to the court to vent his frustrations. In other words, Claire's expression suddenly became unreadable, her lips twitching slightly. Thanks to that Sarah Lynn, he practiced almost every single day on the court. As Leo waited for Julian to retrieve the ball, he suddenly shivered. He felt a chill run down his spine. Was that murderous intent? For Leo, it wasn't just the fundamentals he'd learned as a kid. Even in college and after, he would happily spend hours shooting by himself. Over all those years, his physical conditioning and other skills hadn't improved much. But there was one thing he had mastered. One skill that was good enough to let him hold his own even against serious players. His shot. His three-pointer. It was deadly accurate. His gaze fell on Julian, who was returning with the ball, his face a dark mask of fury. A small smile played on Leo's lips. This was how he was going to win. In terms of physical ability and all-around skill, Leo knew he was no match for a varsity player like Julian. To win, and win decisively, he had to rely on his secret weapon, the three-point shot. More importantly, his opponent's arrogance made his strategy even easier to execute. The first shot was a surprise attack. The second was a feint, a drive fake into a step-back three. Now, it was time for the third possession. Leo held the ball, watching Julian, whose face was now a thundercloud of rage. A slight smile touched Leo's lips. Suddenly, he moved. He faked a shot, then immediately lowered his body and drove forward with the ball. Julian lunged to block him. In the same motion, Leo planted his foot as if to pull back again. A glint of fury flashed in Julian's eyes. You think I'll fall for that again? It has to be another three. Julian leaped high into the air, ready to swat the ball away in a spectacular block. But as his body soared upwards, the Leo in front of him was already ducking low, dribbling past him like a bolt of lightning. The crowd roared. Julian, suspended in midair, felt his world go dark. Damn it, he tricked me again. Having blown past his defender, Leo coasted to the basket for an easy, uncontested layup. The ball dropped through the net. Another basket, 2 three-pointers, and a layup. The score was now 8-0. The students from Class 10 were ecstatic, their cheers echoing across the field. Julian's friends from Class 13, however, looked on in stunned disbelief. Their hero, a varsity player, was being completely schooled by this guy from Class 10. He couldn't guard him at all. It was pure humiliation. Only 3 points left. The court fell silent, everyone holding their breath, afraid to miss a single detail. Julian threw the ball back to Leo, his eyes now bloodshot. He crouched low, his gaze locked on Leo. He could not lose, not in front of all these people. If he lost to a nobody like this, his reputation at Northwood High would be ruined. Leo's expression remained calm and composed. Suddenly, he faked another jump shot. Julian's mind raced. He was certain this was another one of Leo's devious fakes, that the real move was still to come. But in the next second, his pupils contracted violently as he saw Leo actually rise up in a smooth, effortless long-range shot. You thought I was playing 4D chess, but I was just playing checkers. He actually shot it. In a desperate, last-ditch effort, Julian jumped, stretching his arm as far as he could. But it was too late. The form, the wrist snap, the perfect arc of the ball. It was a guaranteed make. In a final, desperate surge of rage, watching Leo's body begin its descent, a dark, vicious thought flashed through Julian's mind. As Leo was about to land, Julian deliberately stuck his foot out. Swish! The ball dropped cleanly through the net. A perfect three-pointer. 11-0. A complete blowout. A shutout. The court erupted in a thunderous roar of cheers and applause. But at the same time, Julian and Leo landed, one after the other. Kevin and a few others saw it happen, their faces contorting in horror as Julian's right foot slid directly under Leo's landing spot. Leo, watch out! Kevin screamed. But Leo was faster. The instant he sensed the malicious intent, he forcibly shifted his center of gravity in midair. Thud! He landed, putting all his weight on his right foot, and tried to absorb the impact with his left, which still came down on Julian's outstretched foot. He stumbled back a few steps, but managed to stay upright. The court was in an uproar. Kevin and the other guys from Class 10 rushed forward. Leo, you okay? Then as one, they turned on Julian, their voices thick with rage. What the hell was that? You tried to undercut him? Can't win, so you play dirty? Julian's friends gathered around, but they had seen the blatant foul, too. They looked at their leader with a new, complicated expression. The hero they had always admired suddenly seemed a lot less heroic. Julian's face was ugly. He regretted the move the second he did it. Not only was it dishonorable, but it hadn't even worked. But he wasn't about to admit it. He sneered. Who's playing dirty? Don't accuse me of things I didn't do. Besides, he's fine, isn't he? He silently cursed. If only I had actually taken the bastard out for a few days, at least that would have been satisfying. His denial only enraged the Class 10 students further. Tessa and the other girls, who had once harbored crushes on Julian, now looked at him with disgust. He seemed so perfect on the outside, but underneath, he was this kind of person. Kevin was by Leo's side. You good, man? Leo waved him off, then looked at Julian and smiled. Losing the game is one thing. Losing your dignity too? Isn't that embarrassing? The calm question was like an invisible hand, slapping Julian hard across the face. The sting was sharp and hot. Julian's face darkened further. I don't know what you're talking about, he sneered. You got lucky and won one game, and now you think you're somebody? Let's go. He turned to leave with his friends. Stop. A clear, cold voice cut through the noise. The crowd parted as Claire Sterling, her expression like ice, walked onto the court. She ignored everyone else and went straight to Julian. Seeing the Ice Queen up close, Julian's heart, against his will, began to pound. He forced what he hoped was a charming smile. Claire! He never finished the word. Before anyone could react, under the horrified, disbelieving gaze of the entire crowd, the campus queen lifted her slender leg and kicked Julian squarely in the shin. Crack! Julian, caught completely off guard, howled in pain, clutching his leg. The sound echoed across the court. Claire just looked down at him coldly and spat out 2 words. How pathetic. Then she turned, walked to Leo, took his hand in her own cool, steady one, and said, her voice like ice, let's go. With everyone watching, he was led away by his beautiful, popular desk mate. A hush fell over the basketball court. No one had recovered from the rapid-fire series of shocking events. It was too much to process. First, Leo Wallace had revealed some insane basketball skills, shutting out Julian Sue, a varsity player, in a staggering 11-0 one-on-one. Then, Julian had intentionally tried to injure him with a dirty undercut, and Claire Sterling, the school's ice queen, had actually stepped up and kicked Julian hard. And finally, she'd taken Leo's hand and walked off with him. The student from their class, Class 10, finally snapped out of it. One of them smacked his lips, hesitating before speaking carefully. That move from our class president just now. Wasn't that a little? Don't mess with my man vibes? As soon as he said it, even Tessie Yuan and the other girls who were close to Claire and knew her ice-cold personality couldn't help but slowly nod in agreement. Nearby, Kevin Zhao just snorted. What do you mean, a little? Have some confidence. As he spoke, Kevin gazed at the backs of Claire and Leo disappearing in the distance, his eyes shining. That was 100% don't mess with my man. Meanwhile, a few of Julian's lackeys from Class 13 crowded around him, asking with feigned concern, You okay, Julian? Julian reluctantly lowered the leg he was clutching. A sharp, drilling pain still shot up from his shin, making the corner of his mouth twitch. His face was darker than ever. Claire's attitude, just now. He shouldn't have brought it up. The mention of her name made Julian's expression turn even more venomous. He grunted, Stupid girl. She's been completely bewitched by that Wallace kid. So what if you won a basketball game? Tomorrow's midterms are where it really counts. At this, the varsity heartthrob who had just been utterly humiliated on the court seemed to regain his confidence. A cold smirk returned to his face. After the midterm scores are posted, we'll see what face he has left to talk big in front of me. His declaration was full of arrogant certainty. He finished, turned with a flourish, and prepared to leave. Suddenly, he sucked in a sharp breath. His shin. His damn shin. It hurt like hell. Being led by the hand by his beautiful deskmate, walking down a tree-lined path on campus, Leo couldn't help but ask, looking at the coolly composed girl beside him, Where are we going? Claire's tone was light, her words concise. The nurse's office. She glanced down at his left foot. You twisted it back there, didn't you? Leo paused, looked down at his own ankle, and nodded honestly. I reacted too late. Didn't manage to dodge it. Does it hurt? Claire asked. A little, Leo admitted. Claire raised an eyebrow, slightly, and nodded. Then I'll help you. Before Leo could react, Claire was beside him. With a practiced, natural motion, she looped his left arm over her shoulders and wrapped her own arm around his waist, supporting him. Leo was stunned. The sudden, close contact, the faint, pleasant scent. In an instant, half of her body was pressed against his. Even through their school uniforms, he could feel the stunning curve of her figure and a softness that nearly sent his mind reeling. The soul of a man in his 30s made him blush. He flailed, trying to pull away. No, it's fine, I can walk on my own. But in the next second, she turned her head to look at him. They were inches apart. Their eyes met. She frowned slightly. Behave. Her voice was as cool as ever, but it carried the unquestionable authority of a class president. Staring at that exquisitely beautiful face, less than a foot away from his own, with those captivating eyes fixed on him, Leo's resolve crumbled. He complied meekly. Okay. Bright sunlight filtered through the leaves, dappling the ground with shifting patterns of light. On the tree-lined path, a girl supported a boy, walking side by side, shattering the metaphorical glasses of every student who saw them. They reached the nurse's office. The school nurse wasn't there. Claire helped Leo to a chair, then turned to find the first aid kit. As soon as he sat down, Leo let out a huge sigh of relief and patted his chest. His heart had been pounding. In 2 lifetimes, this was the first time he'd ever been in such close contact with the school's most popular girl. It was far too intimate. The hug at the observatory didn't count. That was just a simple expression of friendship and gratitude. A moment later, Claire returned from the supply cabinet with a small can of cold therapy spray. She pulled a chair over and sat in front of him. "Lift your foot." Still concise. After having her practically carry him all the way here, how could he possibly ask her to do more? "I can do it myself." Claire's cool expression didn't change. She just looked up at him. "Lift your foot." That one look was all it took. Leo obediently raised his left leg. He rolled up his pant leg slightly, revealing his ankle. It was already starting to look red and swollen. Claire's brow furrowed. She commented flatly, "That Julian, he went too far." Her tone was mild, but inside, a tiny version of Claire was grinding its teeth in fury. "That kick was too light. Next time, I'm sending Mr. Show." Without the slightest hesitation, Claire placed his lower leg across her own knees. She took the can and sprayed his ankle twice. The sensation was ice cold. She set the can aside, lowered her head, and began to gently rub the injured area with her fingertips, working the medicine into his skin in slow circles. As she carefully massaged his ankle, she spoke without looking up, her voice soft. "Tell me if it hurts. I'll be gentler." It didn't hurt. Leo could only feel the gentle pressure of her long, slender fingers on his ankle. The force was just right. He watched her, head bowed, focused completely on treating his injury. A strand of her dark hair fell across her temple, unable to hide the stunning profile of her face. Suddenly, a realization hit him like a lightning bolt. His desk mate was being too nice to him, wasn't she? He had the mature soul of a man in his 30s, after all. No matter how slow he was on the uptake, he could sense that something was different about her in this life. Why would the school's ice queen ever offer such detailed, hands-on care to a male classmate? Unless a thought flashed through his mind, and Leo felt his heart skip a beat. He looked at the girl, still diligently massaging his ankle, swallowed hard, and carefully began to speak. "Hey, are you?" Sunlight streamed through the window of the nurse's office. The air was still. Tiny dust motes, gilded by the light, danced in the air. The girl, her head bowed as she focused on applying the medicine, had a soft, golden glow cast on her exquisite profile, making her even more captivating. The atmosphere quietly shifted, becoming charged and intimate. Leo began. "Are you?" His desk mate stopped what she was doing and looked up. Her eyes were clear and bright as she waited for him to finish. Leo faltered. "Is your family in the massage business? Your technique is pretty good." The air froze for a second. A question mark slowly materialized above Claire Sterling's head. What is this idiot talking about? Little did she know a tiny cartoon version of Leo inside his mind was frantically patting its chest, its face pale with shock. That was close. So close. He had almost asked what he was really thinking. But such a close distance, meeting her gaze, seeing those bright eyes staring at him unblinkingly, he had suddenly lost his nerve. The soul of a mature 30-year-old man had, for a rare moment, lost its footing. So he had pivoted. Hard. She probably didn't notice, right? He furtively glanced at Claire's expression, trying to gauge her reaction. He couldn't see any change. Without answering his bizarre question, Claire lowered her head again and continued massaging his ankle to work in the medication. Her voice was as placid as ever. "I don't like Julian, and you just taught him a lesson for me. So I owe you one. Helping you with this is just my way of paying you back. Don't get the wrong idea." So that was it. The realization dawned on Leo, and the tiny person in his mind patted its chest in immense relief. Good thing I didn't say it. That would have been beyond awkward. Of course, his desk mate was still the same cool, aloof person he remembered from his past life. Why would she ever have feelings for an average guy like him? As a reborn person, he really needed to be more level-headed. He couldn't let himself get carried away. Leo felt a wave of relief wash over him, and his mood lightened. Just then, he heard his desk mate ask, as if it were a casual afterthought, "By the way, you're really good at basketball. Who did you learn that for?" Feeling relaxed, with his leg comfortably propped up while she massaged it, Leo answered without thinking. "Oh, no one in particular. I just practice when I'm in a bad mood. Although, I guess I should thank Sarah Lynn from Class 7 for it." Hiss. He sucked in a sharp breath. His eyes went wide, and he sat bolt upright, a look of pure shock on his face as he stared at the girl in front of him. Claire casually pulled her hand back, her tone as placid as ever. Oh, I pressed too hard by accident. Sorry. That evening, after the late study hall ended, Leo packed his bag and was about to leave when he noticed his desk mate had followed him. Your ankle is sprained. It's not convenient for you to walk. I'll help you. Concise as always. After speaking, she once again moved to loop his arm over her shoulder and slide her other hand around his waist. Leo quickly stopped her. No, it's much better. I can walk on my own. The main issue was that the path from the classroom to the bike racks was swarming with people after study hall, being supported so intimately by the school's legendary ice queen, with her arm around his waist. His sprained ankle was nothing. But Leo figured he'd be killed 1,000 times over by the furious, jealous glares of his fellow students. His desk mate raised an eyebrow, nodded, and then held out her small hand to him. Then let's hold hands while we walk. Leo blinked. Claire's expression was perfectly nonchalant. They don't turn on the hallway lights. I'm afraid of the dark. Desk mates are supposed to help each other out. Holding hands is perfectly reasonable, right? It wasn't that reasonable. But then Leo thought she'd already helped him all the way to the nurse's office this afternoon. If she was afraid of the dark tonight, holding her hand as repayment was the least he could do. Fine, Leo nodded. The moment he agreed, a cool, soft hand slipped into his and squeezed. Let's go. And so, the two of them walked hand in hand down the dim hallway. On the surface, Claire remained cool and composed, as if nothing were out of the ordinary. But inside, a tiny fox-like version of herself was smiling, her eyes curved into crescents, arm around his waist, or holding his hand. Either way, I'm not passing up a chance to get close to my little Leo. Walking side by side, hand in hand, they predictably attracted countless stares of shock, jealousy, and envy. If looks could kill, Leo figured he would have had to be reborn another 100 times on that walk alone. When they finally reached the underground bike garage, Leo quickly let go of her hand and scurried inside. When he wheeled his bike out, he tested the pedal and frowned slightly. The sprained part of his ankle still hurt, and he couldn't put much force on it. Claire was still waiting nearby. She noticed his expression. Still hurts? Leo nodded, then shook his head. It's fine. I can manage to ride home. It should be better by morning. Boys were tough. The parenting philosophy of that era was that girls needed to be pampered and protected, while for boys, the only rule was keep them alive. Leo had grown up with his fair share of scrapes, falls, and sprains, emerging bruised but spirited every time. But Claire frowned. That won't do. After a moment's thought, she made a decision. Don't ride it. Get in my car. I'll have my driver take you home first. When Claire Sterling made a decision, her tone left no room for argument. And so, a few moments later, at the gate of Northwood High, countless students leaving for the day stopped and stared in utter shock. There they saw the ice goddess of their dreams, Claire Sterling, walking with a boy who was pushing a bicycle. They stopped in front of a black Maybach. The bicycle went into the trunk. Then in plain sight, the two of them got into the back seat of the Maybach together. The car door clicked shut, shattering the hearts of countless boys. Leo's best friend, Kevin Zhao, happened to see the whole thing. His face lit up, and he grabbed a passing student to show off. See that? You see that? That guy, that's my best friend, Leo Wallace. That's Leo. Also witnessing the scene was Sarah Lynn, who was walking out of the school gate with a few of her friends. Her friends couldn't hide their shock. The guy who got into the Maybach, is that Leo? Are he and Claire Sterling really together? But doesn't he like you, Sarah? Sarah's face was a mask of ugly emotions. She couldn't speak. She stomped her foot, turned, and stormed off. What does it have to do with me? I'm going home. Inside the Maybach, sitting in the back, Claire looked at Mr. Zhou in the driver's seat and said coolly, Mr. Zhou, please take him home first. He's a classmate, and it's on the way. In the driver's seat, Mr. Zhou replied steadily, Yes, miss. But from an angle where Leo and Claire couldn't see, the pupils of the worldly Mr. Zhou contracted in a violent shock, getting a ride home from school in a Maybach. This was a first. Even for a reborn person like Leo, it was a novel experience. He wasn't nervous at all. He got in and looked around curiously, peering out the window. Of course, he didn't forget to be polite and thank the driver in the front seat. Thanks for the ride, Mr. Zhou. This is a hassle for you. A car this nice. This must be the first time you've chauffeured someone else, huh? Mr. Zhou was still reeling from the shock. Hearing this, he subconsciously sighed and nodded in agreement. It is. In all his years working for the Sterling family, this was the first time he'd ever seen Miss Sterling use her private car to take a boy home. But before he could finish, Claire, sitting next to Leo, cut him off with a cool, placid statement. Not really. We give people rides all the time when it's convenient. You're not the first, so don't get the wrong idea. Really? Leo was surprised. He never would have thought his normally aloof desk mate would offer rides to other students. In the front seat, Mr. Joe instantly caught on. He immediately changed his tune, nodding vigorously, his expression as solemn as if he were taking an oath of enlistment. Yes, yes, that's right. Miss Sterling is very kind and always looks out for her classmates. She's always offering rides whenever she has a spare moment. Leo nodded in understanding. He looked at Claire, who appeared perfectly composed, and figured he just didn't know his desk made as well as he thought. He'd been reading too much into it. How embarrassing. The Maybach moved smoothly down the road. Staring at the scenery flying past the window, Leo decided to make some small talk with Mr. Joe to pass the time. By the way, he said casually, last week, a friend and I were biking home, and I think I saw a Maybach that looked just like this one. He chuckled. My friend thought we were being followed. His laughter echoed in the car, but the atmosphere inside suddenly felt as if it had frozen solid. Mr. Joe's hands tightened on the steering wheel. In the back, Claire's expression remained serene. She remarked coolly, just a coincidence. There are plenty of Maybachs in Northwood. Right, Mr. Joe? In the front seat, Mr. Joe sat up straight and declared with ironclad certainty, right. There must be at least 100 of them. You could throw a rock and hit 3 or 5, ha ha. His laughter was aggressively hearty, a thin veil for his nervousness. Is that so? Leo nodded, enlightened once again. The rest of the ride was tense, but uneventful, except for the fact that the Sterling family's private driver had a heart rate pushing 180. The car itself remained steady. They safely delivered Leo to his home. The Maybach pulled into the open space in front of his apartment building. Leo opened the door, got out, and politely thanked both Claire and Mr. Joe before preparing to close the door and leave. But just before he shut it, he glanced at where the Maybach was parked, and a flicker of memory seemed to strike him. A confused look crossed his face. Hey, this car, this spot. Why does this look so familiar to? The fragile harmony in the car shattered once more. In that moment, Claire Sterling, the former CEO of a publicly traded company in her past life, displayed her formidable mental fortitude. She gave Leo a cool glance and spoke nonchalantly. It's just your imagination. You're overthinking it. Goodbye. With that, she calmly pressed the button, and the window began to rise. Mr. Joe's forced, hearty laughter followed. Yes. It must be your imagination, Leo. Anyway, we're off. See you next time. Haha. The window closed completely. A second later, the Maybach's engine roared to life. With a deep rumble, the dark, sleek car shot off as if its tail were on fire, disappearing down the street in a flash. Leo was left standing there, puzzled. Was it just my imagination? At the same time, in the Maybach speeding down the road, Claire thought about the utterly bewildered look on his face just before the window closed. The corners of her lips curved into a slight smile. Silly boy. Then, as if remembering something, her gaze shifted to the driver's seat. Mr. Joe. The man in question jumped. Yes, miss. Claire said coolly. Next time, try to make your laugh sound more natural. Mr. Joe broke out in a cold sweat. Yes, miss. The next day, Tuesday, Northwood High held its midterm exams. In the classroom, desks were arranged in single-file rows. Leo sat at his desk as the proctor handed out the first exam. His eyes scanned the questions on the page. They felt like familiar, dear old friends. Leo smiled slightly and picked up his pen. In that instant, his aura shifted from one of calm composure to the sharp, gleaming edge of a newly unsheathed sword. It was showtime. The midterm exams lasted for 2 days. For the humanities track students, it was English, math, and a combined exam for history, government, and geography. By Wednesday afternoon, it was all over. Normally, the end of midterms meant that the curriculum review for the seniors was complete. Teachers would stop formal lessons and give students the remaining time for self-study and consolidation. For most seniors, finishing midterms was a huge relief. They could finally relax and have enough time to plan out the final month before the SATs. But this time, for many seniors at Northwood High, the end of midterms did not bring relaxation. Quite the opposite. In the 2 days following the exams, a strange, tense atmosphere settled over the entire senior class, thick with unspoken anticipation. A piece of gossip had, over the past few days, spread like wildfire through the grade level and even the entire school. Julie and Sue from Class 13 and some guy named Leo Wallace from Class 10. They're fighting over Claire Sterling, and they made a bet on their midterm rankings. Whoever loses has to give up pursuing her. and they even have to go streaking across the athletic field. Who was Julian Sue? Every student at Northwood High knew the handsome academic prodigy, the heartthrob of countless girls. In every major exam, he was consistently in the top 5, often top 3, of his year. But who was this Leo Wallace? No one had ever heard of him. He was just some nobody recklessly challenging a giant. Some were thrilled by the bet, some scoffed in disdain, and others were just curious to see what would happen. In this charged atmosphere, time slowly ticked by. Friday morning arrived, and a jolt of energy shot through the entire senior class. Because today was the day Northwood High would post the midterm exam results and rankings. Coming to school on Friday morning, there was no morning reading session or homework check. The students of Class 10 filed into the classroom, settling at their desks for self-study or whispering among themselves. More than a few furtive glances were cast towards the back row of the fourth group. You could overhear snippets of their conversations, peppered with keywords like scores, rankings, Julian, the bet, and Leo. Clearly, the story of the confrontation between Julian and Leo over Claire at the school store last week had long since made the rounds in their own class. Today was the day of reckoning. However, the two people at the center of it all, Leo and Claire, seemed incredibly calm and composed. Almost too calm. They looked completely unconcerned, as if it had nothing to do with them. Both were sitting at their desks, calmly eating breakfast. The other students could even see their class president, the great Claire Sterling, casually offering Leo 2 of the bagels she had bought. And Leo accepted them as if it were the most natural thing in the world, taking a hearty bite without a hint of hesitation. Even though the Class 10 students had gotten used to seeing scenes like this over the past couple of weeks, it was still shocking and unbelievable every time. It always stirred up a mix of envy and jealousy. But then, another thought would cross their minds, and they'd start to feel sorry for Leo. After all, the result of his bet with Julian was about to be revealed. One was the class's acknowledged slacker. The other was the famous academic heartthrob of the entire humanities track. No one in their right mind thought Leo had even a sliver of a chance. Thinking this, the students of Class 10 looked at Leo with a bit more pity and sympathy. This was probably it, the calm before the storm. The bell for first period rang. This morning's class was English, and Mr. Calloway walked in. The students of Class 10 instantly sat up straight, their eyes fixed on him with a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. Mr. Calloway saw their expressions and chuckled, raising his hand with a theatrical flourish. "Oh my, why is everyone looking at me like that? You want to know your midterm scores, don't you? Patience, my dears. All the subjects are on roughly the same schedule. The grading is done, but they're still compiling the stats. The results should be out around noon at the earliest." A collective groan of disappointment swept through the classroom. Seeing his students slump in their seats, Mr. Calloway smiled again, a mysterious twinkle in his eye. "However, I can share a little tidbit. I heard that in English this time, there were 2 exceptionally high scores in the entire grade. One was a 148, and the other was a perfect 150. And both," he paused for effect, "were from our humanities track." Instantly, the class erupted in shocked murmurs. Across the 15 classes in both the humanities and science tracks, the English, math, and language arts exams were the same. And this year's English exam was definitely not easy. Even the top students who usually scored in the 130s were expecting to drop 5 to 8 points. After the exam, the students of Class 10 had compared answers, and even Warren Joe, the class English rep, estimated his score was only around 127. But someone had managed to get a 148, or even a perfect score. What kind of genius were they talking about? Suddenly, a number of students turned in unison to look at the back row of the fourth group, their eyes landing on the beautiful figure of their class president, Claire Sterling. A wave of realization washed over them, and they began to whisper among themselves. Of those 2 incredible scores, it was very likely that one of them belonged to Claire. But who the other one was, no one could say. Under the watchful eyes of her classmates, Claire's expression remained placid. She casually turned her head to glance at Leo, a slight arch in her eyebrow. An almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. If she hadn't specifically sought him out to compare answers for every subject last night during study hall, she would probably be guessing along with everyone else right now. But after comparing answers last night, all speculation was unnecessary. In fact, the outcomes that seemed so uncertain or were considered foregone conclusions by everyone else were, to her, already settled. Right now, she had only one thought, a light and pleasant one. "I'm really looking forward to it." To the moment when today's midterm rankings are finally announced. The first period of English class passed quietly. Mr. Calloway sat leisurely at his desk for 40 minutes, answering questions from a few students who came up to him. When the bell rang, he departed with another elegant, theatrical wave. The classroom immediately buzzed with noise again. Most students were too distracted to study, their minds fixated on the impending release of the midterm rankings. The two students sitting in front of Leo and Claire had even pulled out a deck of cards to pass the time. The atmosphere was chaotic. And then, a dissonant voice cut through the noise. Well. Still so relaxed, Leo? Leo looked up from his seat to see the English rep, Warren Joe, walking over, his voice dripping with its usual passive-aggressive sarcasm. Leo looked at Warren with concern. Hasn't Batman caught you yet? Warren froze. He nearly choked, a mouthful of metaphorical blood stuck in his chest. He took a deep breath and sneered at Leo. Go on, keep pretending. The entire grade knows you bit off more than you could chew, daring to bet your scores against Julian Sue from Class 13. The rankings come out today, and when they do, I can't wait to see who the real clown is. From the next row, Kevin Zhao shot up, his face flushed with anger. Warren, what the hell is your problem? Leo's one of us, from our class. He's competing against Julian from Class 13, and you're siding with the outsider? Warren sneered back. What one of us? Exams are about scores, about who's better. He was arrogant and overconfident, and he's about to be humiliated. When he loses, he's not just embarrassing himself. He's bringing shame to our entire class. If you ask me, that's the unforgivable crime. He delivered the lines with a dramatic, righteous fury. Leo looked at him, genuinely curious. You know a lot of big words. You applying to Harvard or something? Warren choked again. He was completely flustered. He huffed, flicked his wrist dismissively, and turned to leave. I can't be bothered with you. As he turned, his hand accidentally knocked the deck of cards off the desk in front of him. Leo helped pick them up, looked at Warren, and said in a heartfelt tone, See, you're getting worked up again. He kindly held out a card. Here, you dropped your ID. It was the Joker. Warren was so angry he was sputtering, his lips trembling. You. Before he could finish, Claire from the side coolly held out the other Joker card. And here's the copy. Led by Kevin Zhao, the surrounding students gasped, then erupted in laughter. Warren's face turned crimson with shame and fury. As the bell for the next class rang, he turned and fled back to his seat. Second period. Third period. With each new teacher that entered the room, the students looked on with tense anticipation, only to be told they would have to wait a little longer for the rankings. Finally, during the last period of the morning, their homeroom teacher, Mr. Harrison, walked in. With a stern face, he announced, The midterm rankings will be posted before the first period this afternoon. And the school will be hanging a banner with the rankings on the honor roll board right outside the main entrance of the humanities building. The time was set. The stage was ready. It felt like the calm before storm. As time crept by, the moment of the midterm results announcement, as declared by Mr. Harrison, drew closer. Everyone's anticipation grew, and they became increasingly restless. For many, it wasn't even their own scores they were nervous about. They were simply consumed by a burning desire for drama. The gossip monster inside them was roaring. They were all waiting with bated breath to see the results of the biggest event of the season, the scores of Leo Wallace and Julian Sue, especially the former. As the time approached, the chatter among the seniors in both the humanities and science tracks grew more feverish. The list is about to go up. I heard that Julian Sue from Class 13 got the answer key from a teacher right after the exam to estimate his score. He's guaranteed a 635. With how hard the exam was, a 635 absolutely puts him in the top 5 of the humanities track, maybe even top 3. He might even be a threat to Claire Sterling's rank. And that guy from Class 10, Leo Wallace. Never even heard of him. He used to be at the bottom of the rankings in the last 10%. He is so screwed, ha ha ha. Besides the casual observers, even those who had crossed paths with Leo were reveling in his impending doom. For instance, Tiffany Gua and Felix Fong from Class 11. They had run into Leo and Claire at Beacon Hill Park last weekend. The encounter had certainly left an impression on them, though not a good one. Gossiping with her friends, Tiffany still had her haughty, princess-like air, her face a mask of disdain. Oh, that Leo guy? I've met him, she sniffed. He's sort of cute, I guess, but nowhere near as handsome as Felix, and he can't even compare to Julian. I have no idea what kind of spell he cast on Claire Sterling to trick her into going to the park with him. This time, he's in for a world of humiliation. Felix Fong, the class academic rep and a top student himself, spoke to his friends with a reserved arrogance. I can only describe him with one word, pathetic. My estimated score is 620, so I should be able to break into the top 15. Julian's estimated score is 635, which is easily top 2 material. And that Leo guy? I'd be surprised if he even broke 420. He should be grateful for that. A flood of opinions and judgments swirled around. When school let out for lunch, even Leo's best friend, Kevin Zhao, couldn't sit still. He rushed over to Leo, frantic. Leo, this is bad. Really bad. The whole grade is talking about you and Julian. And it's a total landslide. Everyone thinks you're going down. A lot of people are just waiting to watch you crash and burn. Leo just nodded. Oh, well, I'm gonna get lunch. Kevin nearly fainted from exasperation. Dude, how can you be thinking about food at a time like this? Just then, Claire stood up, walked over, and casually said to Leo, let's go. What are you in a mood for today? Leo instantly perked up. You're treating, so you decide. Kevin was speechless. Claire's gaze shifted to him, her eyes narrowing slightly. You want come? A shiver went down Kevin's spine. He immediately shook his head, a fawning smile on his face. Me? No, no, no. I'm good. Then you are dismissed. You got it, class president. I'm out of here. Noon. Alan's diner, just outside the school gates. As usual, his wealthy desk mate was paying. Not having to open his own wallet always improved Leo's appetite. He dug into his food with gusto. Across from him, Claire took a few bites, then rested her chin on her hand and watched him eat. Confident? She asked suddenly. Leo didn't look up, continuing his assault on his lunch. Invincible, he mumbled through a mouthful of food. His tone was casual, but it was backed by an unshakable confidence. Hearing that, a smile touched Claire's lips. She stretched languidly and then grinned. All right, in that case, I'm looking forward to the show. That smile was like 100 flowers blooming, like a glacier melting in the sun. It was so stunning that students at several nearby tables froze, their chopsticks clattering to the floor, forgotten. Leo happened to look up just in time to see it. He too was mesmerized. Compared to the cool, composed expression he was used to, this smile was breathtakingly beautiful, radiant beyond description. Snapping out of it, he blurted out a genuine compliment. You look even prettier when you smile like that. This time, it was Claire's turn to be stunned. When she registered what he'd said, the former ice-cold CEO, for the first time in her life, felt a wave of shy panic. A blush crept across her cheeks. What are you talking about? Leo realized what he'd said too, and his own face flushed as he fumbled for an explanation. Nothing. I was just rambling. The storm was coming. The great battle was at hand. And here were these two, caught in a sweet, bubbly moment of budding romance. If anyone else had seen it, they probably would have cursed them out of pure, unadulterated envy. But strangely, the more they seemed to disregard the approaching storm, the more composed they appeared, as if victory was already in their grasp. After a leisurely lunch, Leo and Claire started walking back to school. It was around 1 o'clock. Not long now until the time Mr. Harrison had given for the results announcement. As they walked through the school gates and past the humanities building, they noticed a dense crowd had already formed around the honor roll board in the distance. Claire raised an eyebrow in surprise. Are the results already posted? Leo walked a little closer and saw that the board was still empty. The new midterm ranking list hadn't been put up yet. The students gathered there must have known it was almost time and were camping out for the latest news. Leo had no intention of waiting. He was about to turn and head back to the classroom with Claire when he heard two voices, a male and a female, call out at the same time. Leo! Leo stopped and turned toward the voices. The crowd parted, and a boy and a girl stepped out. The boy was tall and handsome, the girl sweet and pretty. For Leo, they were all too familiar. Julian Sue, Sarah Lynn. He never expected to see the two of them together, here at this exact moment. Julian looked at Leo, his face a mask of condescending mockery. He sneered, What? You knew the list was going up, so you came to see for yourself just how badly you lost. Let me tell you, Leo, today is the day your reputation at Northwood High is utterly destroyed. Beside him, Sarah also looked at Leo, her eyes filled with undisguised satisfaction. She adopted a superior, arrogant posture. Leo, I really don't know who gave you the courage to compete with Julian. I was actually considering giving you another chance to pursue me, but now it seems there's no need. A person like you is not only unworthy of being Julian's rival, but you also have absolutely no right to pursue me. One, the heartthrob academic prodigy of Class 13. The other, the belle of Class 7. Julian Sue and Sarah Lynn, one after the other, in front of this massive crowd, were burying him under a mountain of merciless contempt and ridicule. It was a devastatingly effective attack. The surrounding students couldn't help but look at Leo with a mixture of pity and sympathy. This guy was having a seriously bad day. He'd managed to offend two of the school's most prominent figures at the same time and was now being publicly humiliated for it. This story would undoubtedly spread through the entire school like wildfire, and his reputation would be in tatters. However, before Leo could even open his mouth, a cool voice cut through the air. "Leo has me. That's enough. Why would he need to pursue anyone else?" The voice was followed by the sound of approaching footsteps. Everyone looked up in astonishment. Claire Sterling was striding through the crowd toward them. She radiated an intense aura, her gaze sweeping coolly over everyone, making them avert their eyes. Her eyes finally landed on Sarah Lynn, and a cold, mocking smile played on her lips. "Give Leo another chance to pursue you. He has no right. Who the hell do you think you are?" The words hit like a thunderclap, leaving the students in front of the honor roll board reeling, unable to believe their own ears. Even though they had heard the rumors, they had never imagined that the famously aloof Claire Sterling would actually step forward and defend a boy with such unwavering and aggressive conviction, and to come out swinging with such a sharp, merciless attack. "You!" Sarah's face instantly turned beet red, a mixture of anger and indignation. But the words had come from Claire Sterling. In terms of popularity, looks, or anything else, she was completely outmatched. She wanted to retort, but she had nothing to say. Beside her, Julian watched Claire's fierce defense of Leo, a flash of jealous hatred in his eyes. He turned his glare on Leo and sneered loudly. "Leo, is this all you've got? Hiding behind a woman, letting Claire protect you? Do you have any backbone of your own?" Julian's words seemed to jolt Sarah. She immediately sidestepped a direct confrontation with Claire and turned her attack back to Leo. "Exactly," she huffed. "Leo, if you have something to say it yourself." The crosshairs were back on Leo. He just nodded cheerfully. "Oh, okay. If you insist." His calm, casual demeanor made Sarah feel a flicker of unease, though she couldn't place why. Before she could figure out, Leo was looking at her, his expression now earnest and sincere. "Let me explain this to you one more time. I'm not interested in you. Think about it. Claire is my desk mate. She's the most popular girl in school. She's beautiful, and she gets amazing grades. On a scale of 1 to 10, she's at least a 9. If I'm going to pursue anyone, it's going to be her. Why would I bother with a 3, right?" His tone was honest and genuine, but his words sent a shockwave through the crowd. Sarah's mind went completely blank. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her lips trembled. "WH, what did you say?" I'm a 3. She was Sarah Lynn, the belle of Class 7. Even if she wasn't on Claire Sterling's level, she was absolutely in the top tier at Northwood High. And now, for the first time in her life, someone had just rated her a 3 in public. At that moment, Sarah's friend, Chloe Chue, stepped out from the crowd, her face livid. "Leo, how can you be so disgusting?" she screeched. "Look at yourself. Who are you to rate Sarah? Do you think you're worthy?" Leo glanced at Chloe. "You're one." Whoosh! An even louder gasp erupted from the crowd. Chloe froze, stunned. When the words finally registered, her face turned scarlet. "I am a 1. That's hilarious. As if I care what you score me. You can give me whatever score you want. I couldn't care less what you think. You're nothing special yourself. Ha ha ha. I'm dying. Do you know how arrogant you are?" She had completely lost it, devolving into a stream of incoherent babble. Leo couldn't be bothered with her anymore. His gaze shifted to Julian. "As for you, does your leg still hurt?" Another concerned inquiry. It instantly reminded many in the crowd of the one-on-one on the basketball court a few days ago. Now it was Julian's turn to flush red with anger. "You," but he was clearly more composed than Chloe. He took a deep breath to steady himself and smirked at Leo again. "Leo, stop putting on act. 1,000 words won't change a thing. Today's midterm rankings are what matter. Since you're both here, that's perfect. Let Claire see for herself what kind of clown she's chosen." Sarah sneered as well, looking at Claire. "That's right. Claire, I admit you're prettier than me, and you get better grades. But unfortunately for you, your taste in men is far worse than mine. You could have picked anyone, but you picked someone like Leo. All I can say is it's a shame. Even if you were the school's #1 girl, hanging around with him will just drag you down into the mud with him, and you'll both become a laughingstock." Just then, a boy came running over from a distance, yelling, "It's out! It's out!" All eyes snapped to him. The boy ran up, his face flushed with excitement, and looked straight at Julian. "Julian, our class's scores are out first. I just saw them in our homeroom teacher's office. You got a 634 on the midterms. You're 3rd in our grade." The announcement sent another wave of shock and awe through the crowd. Everyone looked at Julian with admiration. He truly was the academic god of Class 13. That score was undeniable. A hint of smug satisfaction appeared on Julian's face, though he feigned humility. Really? That a bit lower than I estimated. I thought I might have a shot at the top two. The boy who brought the news then turned to Claire, his expression one of reverence. When I was in the office, I heard they found your papers too, Claire. Your total score is 643. Second in the humanities track. The crowd buzzed again, all eyes turning to Claire with envy and amazement. Claire just raised an eyebrow slightly, seemingly unfazed by the result. She looked at the boy. Then who's first? The boy shook his head. I don't know, but the full rankings for the entire grade are out. They're about to be posted. Suddenly, the boy pointed toward the admin building, his voice rising in excitement. Look, a teacher is coming with the results list. Everyone followed his finger. There, in the bright sunlight, coming from the entrance of the admin building, was a middle-aged male teacher, hurrying toward the honor roll board with a large poster in his hands. The teacher carrying the results poster hurried over. This meant that the final rankings for the midterm exams were about to be revealed. But for some of the people standing in front of the honor roll board, it seemed the outcome was already decided. Julian's eyes were fixed on Leo, his expression one of undisguised contempt. He wore the smug, mocking look of a victor. Leo, do you get it now? Do you see how massive the gap between us really is? A total score of 634. Third place in the entire humanities track. The results were irrefutable, more than enough to fuel his arrogance. Leo just glanced at him, looking puzzled. What's the rush? My score isn't out yet, is it? This time, before Julian could speak, Chloe, who was burning with resentment toward Leo, laughed loudly. Do we even need to wait? Julian got third in our year. You, who've been at the bottom of the class every single time, what score could you possibly get? Even if you miraculously scored 100 or 200 points higher, you still couldn't touch him. Julian chuckled and waved a hand, acting magnanimous, as if victory were already his. It's fine. The terms of the bet were clear. He doesn't have to score higher than me. As long as he makes it into the top 10, I lose. He looked at Leo again, his eyes gleaming with the cruel playfulness of a cat toying with a mouse. But you don't actually believe? You have a shot at that, do you? Sarah had also regained her proud princess demeanor, looking down at Leo with contempt. Leo, it's come to this. What's the point of holding out? If I were you, I'd just admit defeat and apologize to Julian right now. Maybe he'll even go easy on you and spare you some of the humiliation. Leo just laughed and shook his head. I know you guys are anxious. Before he could finish, a cool, pleasant voice seamlessly picked up where he left off. But don't be anxious just yet. It was Claire. Leo paused, instinctively looking at his desk mate. Having finished his sentence, Claire also paused and glanced back at him. The sudden, subtle moment of perfect sync caught them both off guard. But to Julian and Sarah, that shared moment was like gasoline on the fire of their jealousy and anger. Julian sneered. Fine, let's all watch together. Let's make you give up this fantasy for good. Sarah also smirked. Exactly. If someone is determined to make a fool of themselves in public, they have no one to blame but themselves. Just then, the middle-aged teacher arrived. He looked at the massive crowd and waved his hands. Make way, make way. The students parted like a wave. As the teacher walked up with the giant results poster and began to prepare it for mounting, the students surged forward again. Everyone held their breath, their eyes wide, trying to read the names on the poster, afraid to miss a single detail. The honor roll board listed the top 50 for the humanities track and the top 100 for the science track. The teacher was using a brush and glue, slowly unrolling and pasting the poster from the bottom up. So the students craning their necks could first see the rankings for 50th place, then 40th, then 30th, and upward. 20th, 15th, top 10. Felix Foam from Class 11 was ranked 16th. Warren Joe, the English rep from Class 10, was 34th. The list continued. 9th, 8th, 7th. Still no sign of a certain name. By now, the students around the board were starting to give Leo looks that said, just as I expected, mixed with either schadenfreude or pity. Julian felt a surge of triumphant energy fill his chest, a powerful feeling of vengeance. He looked at Leo and laughed mockingly. Well, you see it now? Ready to give up? I bet's a bet tonight on the athletic field. The whole school will be waiting to see you strip down and put on a show. Ha ha. A small smile played on Leo's lips. Not so fast. Just wait a little longer. Beside him, Sarah let out a snort of laughter, filled with undisguised glee. Wait for what? There are only 5 spots left. You didn't even make the top 10. Don't tell me you actually think you have a shot at the top 5. Chloe added with a loud, derisive laugh. Exactly. Leo, why don't you just say you scored higher than both Julian and Claire? Maybe your number. Her words were cut off by a heaven-shaking roar from a distance. Leo. Whoosh. Everyone flinched and whipped their heads around to see Kevin Zhao practically tumbling out of the humanities building, sprinting toward them. Leo. He skidded to a halt, panting and sweating, his face flushed with an ecstatic, almost manic energy. He grabbed Leo's shoulders, his voice trembling. I saw the scores in Mr. Harrison's office. Your rank. It's. Hearing that trembling, excited voice, seeing the crazed look of triumph on Kevin's face, a sudden, terrible premonition shot through the minds of Julian, Sarah, and Chloe like a weed. With everyone watching, Kevin took a deep breath and roared at the top of his lungs. It's number 1 in the grade. In that instant, the world seemed to freeze. The sun shone brightly, its midday rays bathing the campus of Northwood High. At the honor roll board, the middle-aged teacher had just finished pasting the very top of the results poster. 3rd place, Julian Sue. Total score, 634. 2nd place, Claire Sterling. Total score, 643. And at the very top of the list, printed in clear, undeniable text, 1st place, Leo Wallace. Total score, 648. Chloe stood frozen. The look of mockery and triumph on Sarah's face was locked in place, as if she'd been turned to stone. Julian's pupils contracted violently in disbelief, and his mind exploded as if his entire world had just collapsed. And in that moment, Claire simply turned her head and looked at Leo. She remembered her own shock, disbelief, and overwhelming joy from the night before, after they had compared answers. A smile flowed into her eyes. This desk made of mine. He really gave everyone, including me, the most wonderfully unexpected surprise. Leo looked at Julian and spoke, his voice calm and steady. Looks like you're the one putting on a show tonight. In the end, Julian Sue lacked the courage or the face to fulfill his promise. After learning the shocking results at the honor roll board, the academic heartthrob of Class 13's face had cycled through 1,000 shades of red and green. He completely broke down, screaming, "Impossible! I don't believe it!" Finally, under the gaze of every single person there, he had fled in utter disgrace. He skipped the late study hall that night. For the next month, he didn't come to school at all, vanishing completely, too ashamed to show his face. This was a source of great disappointment for Kevin Zhao, who had gathered a large crowd that evening, ready to witness the main event on the athletic field. That Pong Su. How can he lose but not have the guts to own up to it? Same as on the basketball court. No backbone at all, he declared, full of righteous indignation. Leo glanced at his best friend. Weren't you the one who made a bet with me, too? Huh, was I? You must be misremembering, Leo. Kevin denied it without batting an eye, instantly changing the subject. But seriously, man, you were awesome this time. It's not just our grade, the whole school is talking about it. About the new number 1 in the humanities track. A 648. That's almost 300 points higher than your last exam. How did you do it, man? If you've got a study method like that, you got to teach me. Leo wasn't surprised. It felt perfectly natural. This was the culmination of countless hours of hard work from his past life, of conquering mountains of textbooks and oceans of practice questions. A mere midterm exam was nothing. Of course, he couldn't say that out loud, so he just offered a breezy reply. It was nothing, really. It was mostly thanks to Claire. Coincidentally, that's exactly what Claire believed. She knew perfectly well that she hadn't tutored Leo at all. At first, she couldn't figure it out either. In her past life, her quiet desk mate had never shown such astonishing academic prowess. The diaries of his she'd read had never mentioned him holding back. So what had changed? The only variable, the only butterfly effect, was that she, Claire Sterling, had been reborn, and her attitude toward the boy sitting next to her had changed. Thus, the brilliant mind of the former CEO immediately arrived at a conclusion. Little Leo must have unleashed his hidden potential, inspired by her loving encouragement. That was the only reason his grades could improve so quickly. It had to be. What other explanation could there be? It's not like he was reborn, too. Firm in this belief, Claire scribbled a note during study hall that evening and pushed it onto Leo's desk. The note had just 3 words, written in a bold, flowing script. How's my reward? Leo blinked. He scribbled 3 question marks back. Claire saw it and pouted internally. Little guy is being shy, is he? Too embarrassed to admit it was all thanks to my loving encouragement? Fine. She confidently wrote on the note again and pushed it back. I stood up for you against Julian and that Sarah girl at lunchtime. Don't you think you should show some appreciation? Leo thought about it. She wasn't wrong. At the honor roll board that afternoon, Even if he had been alone, he could have easily put Julian and Sarah in their place once the scores were announced. But with his desk mate stepping in, the effect had been amplified tenfold. After Julian had his meltdown and ran off, Sarah and her friend Chloe had stood there, shell-shocked. After they recovered, they seemed to be trying to force a smile and smooth things over. But Claire had simply swept her cold gaze over them and asked, "Aren't you leaving?" One sentence, total annihilation. It sent them scurrying away without another word. Leo came back to the present and wrote on the note, "How do you want me to thank you?" Claire's pen flew across the paper. "Promise me 3 things." Hiss. Leo sucked in a breath. He was shocked. How could such a cool and elegant girl, with such delicate lips, make such an outrageous demand? "Woman, thy name is Greed." "No way. 1 max." "Fine. My one condition is that you promise me 3 more things." The note went back and forth, filled with frantic negotiations. Finally, they compromised on 2 conditions. The specifics were yet to be determined, to be cashed in later. But whenever she decided to state them, Leo had to comply, no questions asked. During the second half of study hall, their homeroom teacher, Mr. Harrison, walked into the classroom, his face glowing, practically radiating joy. He announced that Class 10 had done exceptionally well this time. His eyes landed on Leo, and he looked at him as if he were a priceless treasure, showering him with praise. A sword's edge is sharpened through grinding. The fragrance of plum blossoms comes from the bitter cold. "Leo, what you've done is incredible. You've given me a huge surprise. Look at this, proof that with hard work, miracles can happen." Mr. Harrison was ecstatic, not only because a top-tier student had emerged from his class, but more importantly, because the top 2 students in the entire grade were now in his class, crushing their old rival, Class 13. In the teacher's lounge, he had finally gotten to lord it over Class 13's homeroom teacher, Mr. Wu, with whom he had a long-standing feud. It was a glorious moment of vindication. After praising Leo for several minutes, Mr. Harrison added, "Of course, Leo, for your amazing score this time, you also have to thank Claire. Her tutoring and help played a huge role." It wasn't just Mr. Harrison who thought so. The other students in the class all nodded in vigorous agreement. They looked at Leo with envy and at Claire with admiration. No sane person would believe that Leo could jump from the bottom of the class to number 1 all by himself. It had to be the work of a super tutor like Claire. If Claire tutored me, many of them thought, maybe I could do it too. In response to the praise, Claire remained cool and composed, neither proud nor overly modest. "It's nothing, sir. It's my duty to help my classmates. Leo doesn't need to thank me specifically." Her words earned another round of admiration from Mr. Harrison and the students. A true class act, that Claire Sterling. So selfless. Only Leo, who had just been coerced into signing an unequal treaty, felt his eye twitch. Selfless? If you're so selfless, how about you tear up that treaty you just made me agree to? When he got home from school that night, his parents rushed him at the door, pulling him into an enthusiastic hug and ruffling his hair. "That's my boy. You really made your parents proud." It turned out that Mr. Harrison, in his excitement, had called Leo's parents that afternoon to share the good news. His parents had been in disbelief, repeatedly confirming with the teacher before they were finally overjoyed. They ushered him to the dining table, where a lavish late-night snack was spread out in celebration. As Leo ate, his parents couldn't stop beaming, praising him endlessly. Finally, his mother seemed to remember something. "By the way, Leo, your teacher said that a student named Sue helped you a lot this time." "Who is that? You should invite them over for dinner sometime. I'll cook a big meal to thank them properly." Invite his desk mate over for dinner? Absolutely not. The thought had barely formed in Leo's mind before he shot it down. He and Claire had a perfectly innocent desk-mate relationship. But in high school, if a boy invited a girl home for dinner to meet his parents, the rumors would be catastrophic. It would be bad for her reputation. Of course, besides this thoughtful consideration, Leo was also still a little salty about the unequal treaty his desk-mate had forced him to sign during study hall. "I already promised you 2 favors, Claire. Isn't that thanks enough?" "It's more than enough." With this in mind, Leo waved his hand at his parents. "Don't worry about it. My desk-mate is a really good person. She helps without expecting anything in return." As he said this, he couldn't help but think of the treaty, and he ground his teeth slightly. "If she needs thanking, I'll do it myself." His parents nodded. Then a look of delight crossed their faces. "And your desk mates? With such a great classmate, you two should definitely get along well. Forget dinner, just bring the bottomita sometime." When it came to getting along, time was running out. For Leo, for Claire, and for all the seniors at Northwood High. With midterms over, the final 30-day countdown to the SATs had begun. On Saturday morning, Mr. Harrison addressed the class. For the next month, for those who want to study at school, the classrooms, lecture halls, study rooms, and library will all be open all day. For those who want to study at home, that's up to you. The school won't force you. But all the teachers will be in their classrooms or offices, so if you have questions, you can find us anytime. He paused, his eyes sweeping over the students of Class 10. For once, his expression softened. This is the last month. We've already told you everything we need to say countless times. What your teachers can do to help is limited. This last stretch of the road, you'll have to run it yourselves. His tone lacked its usual sternness, replaced by a heartfelt sincerity. After his speech, Mr. Harrison called Leo to his office. Alone with him, looking at the student who had gone from the bottom of the class to the top of the grade, Mr. Harrison opened his mouth, but for a moment, he didn't know what to say. The emotions were too complex. Finally, he collected himself, his voice unusually gentle. You did very well on the midterms. A result that even I, your homeroom teacher, never expected. But don't let it go to your head. Keep up the momentum. Your final SAT score is what will determine the course of your life. So don't waste this talent. Don't disappoint your parents. And most importantly, don't disappoint yourself. It was a rare, heartfelt lecture. The words were familiar cliches, but hearing them now, Leo was surprisingly moved. He could feel that this stern, balding, middle-aged man was genuinely sharing his life's wisdom. But in the next second, as if remembering something, Mr. Harrison's tone shifted, becoming casual. So, the most important thing for you all right now is to focus on studying. As for other things, like feelings, relationships, all that, there's no rush. You can get along for now, motivate each other academically. If you really want to develop something more, you can talk about it after the SATs, after graduation. It won't be too late. The warm feeling vanished. Leo stared at Mr. Harrison, a giant question mark forming above his head. What feelings and relationships? I have no idea what he's talking about. With their teacher's announcement, the students of Class 10 were now free. Most of them chose to spend the final month studying at school. The atmosphere was better, and it was too easy to get lazy at home. Leo felt the same way. But if he was looking for the best study environment, the classroom was no longer the top choice. Even though many of his classmates were still there, without a teacher's supervision, the atmosphere had become much more relaxed. Some people would work for a bit, then start snacking and chatting, which was distracting. The best place to study at Northwood High was the large lecture hall. Just as Leo made this decision, he got some unexpected news from his desk mate. You going to the lecture hall, too? Leo looked at her, surprised. She nodded, her expression as placid as ever. MHM, you're going? Leo nodded honestly. She raised an eyebrow. What a coincidence. Let's go together, then. Leo didn't think much of it and readily agreed. Sure. Kevin said he was going too, so we can all study together. Claire's eyes narrowed slightly. Kevin? He said he's not going anymore. Leo was taken aback. Really? I just asked him. He said he wanted to study with me. Claire's expression was perfectly nonchalant. MHM. He changed his mind at the last minute. You can ask him again if you don't believe me. A few moments later. Right, I changed my mind. Kevin, just back from the bathroom, declared with righteous conviction. I've decided a place like the lecture hall just isn't for me. I'll be perfectly fine studying here in the classroom. You and the class president should just go together. Leo eyed his best friend, who was striking a ridiculously noble pose. Then he glanced at his desk mate, who looked as cool and unconcerned as ever. Nothing seemed out of place, but something felt weird. Whatever. Leo shook his head and made the final call. All right, then it'll just be the two of us. The large lecture hall also served as Northwood High's auditorium. It could easily seat 300 to 500 people, enough for an entire grade level. There were quite a few seniors studying there, but they all sat with an empty seat between them, working quietly without disturbing one another. Claire had gone to the school store to buy drinks, so Leo went ahead to find and save them seats. He walked into the hall, scanned the room, and quickly found a spot in a corner. He put down both his and Claire's backpacks. Just as he sat down and was about to take out his books and papers, a chubby guy in the seat to his left turned around and whispered, Hey man, you got a red pen I can borrow? Leo nodded. Sure. He generously handed one over. The guy took it gratefully. Thanks, man. He returned it after he was done. With that small exchange, a conversation started. The guy was from Class 6 and had a naturally chatty personality. To make conversation easier, he moved to the seat directly in front of Leo and began talking nonstop. When the topic turned to recent gossip, he leaned in conspiratorially, lowering his voice. Hey, you in the humanities track, right? You must have heard of Leo Wallace from Class 10. Leo nodded. Yeah, I've heard the name. Don't really know him. The chubby guy puffed out his chest proudly. You don't know him, that's fine. I do. Kevin Zhao, you know him, right? He and Leo are best friends. Leo couldn't help but look the guy up and down. Are you Kevin? He asked cautiously. No. The guy waved his hand dismissively, his expression smug. I'm Kevin's best friend. He leaned in again, his eyes gleaming with excitement. So, what I'm about to tell you is first-hand intel. Kevin himself told me that Leo and Claire have been desk mates for 2.5 years and have been secretly in love the whole time. And it's not just Claire who's a genius. Leo is one too. He was just pretending to be a slacker to be low-key because he couldn't bear to steal the #1 spot from his girl. Leo was speechless. Wow, amazing. A +4 creativity. The guy continued, completely wrapped up in his story. And this time, that Julian Sue from Class 13 just had to be an idiot and pick a fight with them. You've got this perfect couple, head over heels, a match made in heaven. And this clown comes along trying to break them up. He was asking for it. So Leo went beast mode for his girl, dropped the act, and casually took first place. I also heard that he and Claire talked it over, and since the secret's out, they're not going to hide it anymore. After the SATs, they're going to make it official. They'll become Northwood High's legendary power couple, leaving a legacy before disappearing into the sunset. By the end of his tale, the guy had managed to move himself. He clasped his hands to his chest, a dreamy look on his face. Man, it's so romantic. Will I find my Juliet? Leo couldn't listen anymore. The rumors had gotten completely out of hand. He had to correct this. He cleared his throat and said seriously, You heard wrong. Leo and Claire are just normal classmates. It's a very innocent desk-mate relationship. They're not dating. The guy immediately looked annoyed, eyeing Leo sideways. What do you mean I heard wrong? Are you Kevin's best friend? Or am I? Leo thought about it. In a way, they both were. Damn you, Kevin Zhao. He had been too soft. He should have let that kid go streaking across the field with Julian. Just then, the sound of footsteps came from the main entrance at the front of the hall. Both Leo and the chubby guy instinctively looked up. A beautiful figure walked through the doorway. The girl was holding 2 drinks, dressed in a simple, loose-fitting red and white school uniform. She had a slender figure with graceful curves and a face as exquisite as a painting. Her skin was fair, and she exuded a cool, ethereal aura. Her eyes were bright, yet as deep and serene as autumn water. Her dark hair was tied back in a neat ponytail. Despite her simple attire, she seemed to possess a unique magnetic field. From the moment she appeared, she captured the attention of every single student in the lecture hall. Their eyes locked on her. The most popular girl at Northwood High, Claire Sterling. The chubby guy stared, completely transfixed. A moment later, he snapped out of it, his excitement returning with a vengeance. Whoa, it's Claire Sterling. He kept his eyes glued on her while frantically shaking Leo's arm. Dude, we hit the jackpot. I heard Claire studies with Leo now. If she's here, then Leo must be here too. The power couple has arrived. We've got front row seats to the best show in town. Leo glanced at the guy sitting right in front of him and nodded. Yeah, you do. Pretty front row. The guy was confused. What's that supposed to mean? Then he noticed Claire was walking toward them. He got so excited he was practically vibrating. She's coming this way. She's coming right for us. Are they sitting here? Dude, look around. Leo must be nearby. Leo looked down at himself. No need to look. You found him. The chubby guy blinked and finally turned to look at Leo, a dumbfounded expression on his face. And then, under the watchful gaze of nearly every student in the lecture hall, Claire Sterling arrived at their corner spot. And gracefully, in front of a sea of stunned faces, sat down next to him. She casually handed him an ice-cold Sprite. Yours. Leo took it naturally. Thanks. The entire lecture hall fell silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Everyone had long since recognized Claire Sterling. So, seeing the person sitting next to her, it took them only a second to connect the dots with all the gossip they'd heard. A low murmur, like a rising tide, swept through the room. The rumors were true. The great Claire Sterling and that Leo Wallace. They were really together. They were here, in the lecture hall, studying together. And the chubby guy, sitting in the best seat in the house, looked at the power couple in front of him, frozen like a statue. Only 2 words echoed in his mind, over and over. Holy shit.